Ow woo, friends and enemies. Hello. Ow woo. Don't mind me. I'm gonna be listening to the news while we're playing Baldur's Gate. Um, Looks like there's a lot of stuff happening.
Did you know that the vast majority of self-published books don't sell more than any copies? It's because their authors didn't take the time to get them professionally edited or designed. On Read so you can find the perfect editor.
CEO of My Pillow. He likes to come out every couple weeks or so, just remind everybody that yep, he's still not quite in the same reality as the rest of us. I think is the nicest way to say it. But this week, Mike Lindell accidentally claimed that Donald Trump could be committing fraud in the 2024 election. And Lindell, ironically, did this while talking about how awesome Trump is going to perform in the 2024 election because of the indictments against him. Here's what Mike Lindell had to say about what's going to happen in 2024 with Donald Trump. And I and you know, that's not how you say that. You don't say and I and you. I mean, my God, dude. Okay, Jesus. It's so hard to read quotes sometimes from people
Right.
who can't, put a whole thought together. Jesus. All right. And I and you know, if they keep indicting our real president, Donald Trump, he'll have more votes than we have people in the United States. It'll be like Pennsylvania that has more votes than voters. Every time they attack him, his numbers go up. You just implicated Donald Trump in a potential fraud scheme, a fraud scheme that obviously has not come to fruition because we've not had the 2024 election. But in order for Donald Trump to get more votes than there are voters in the country, there would have to be massive fraud, which I thought Mike Lindell was like totally against. Like, isn't that your whole thing now? Like, not just pillows, but voter fraud too. But here you're saying that Trump's gonna get more voters than voters.
What's inside?
What? Like, I know you're using hyperbole to try to show us how well he's gonna do in the 2024 election, but you did it in a way that indicates that you think he's gonna pull off a massive fraud against the government of the United States, which ironically has actually been indicted. So, weird way to say it, especially if you're supposed to be the voter fraud identifier. Like, don't try to act like you're gonna have more votes than voters, because that kind of runs afoul of your whole gig now. But it also runs afoul of reality, as per usual. What we're saying right now is that all of the polls show us that Lindell is half right. Donald Trump's support is increasing. There's a very important asterisk next to that statement. Donald Trump's support is increasing. The rest of the sentence is among Republican voters. Not among all voters. Not among independent voters, not among the no party affiliation voters, the ones who will actually be determining the outcome of the 2024 election.
Best be on
Trump's
my way.
standing with those people has not gone up at all. Like, even before the indictments, it hadn't gone up. And that's what these Republicans, because Lauren Boebert's made a similar claim. Marjorie Taylor Greene may have. I haven't paid attention to some of the crazy stuff she said recently. But they all seem to say the same thing, like Trump's poll numbers are going through the roof. And they're only going through the roof when you're looking at that microcosm of the country. The Republican Party, self-identified Republican voters, are 25% of registered voters here in the United States. 25% of the population. Only 40% of Republican voters identify as MAGA Republicans, so Trump supporters. So Trump only has 40% of the support overall, in terms of who identifies as what, of 25% of registered voters. So we're talking about 10.5%. Yes, I did the math the other day because I'm a loser. 10.5% of the Republican Party that are diehard Trump supporters. And that's great when you're trying to win a primary. You can easily win a primary with those numbers. What you can't do is win a general election with those numbers. Majority of voters support the indictments against Donald Trump that came out last Thursday. Majority of voters believe that Donald Trump committed a crime. Majority of Republican voters believe that if he is convicted, he should be disqualified from holding office. Those poll numbers do not bode well for Donald Trump. Not to mention last week, right, we had the poll from the New York Times showing Biden and Trump are neck and neck at 43%. No other polls come out to support that. That poll, as of right now, until we get more polls, it isn't out. So I don't believe it. I didn't believe it when it came out, but it's ridiculous to think that Trump's standing with independent voters has increased because of these indictments. They're not buying his talking points that it's a political persecution. They're not buying this, oh, give me sympathy and give me money. Most people disagree with all of that. And those are the poll numbers that people like Mike Lindell want you to not pay attention to, because those are the ones that do show that these indictments are hurting him. He can win the primary easily, but he doesn't stand a chance in a general election. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel. We also encourage you to like, comment, and share, but again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.
Phone numbers and everything. It's incredible. I think it would have been verified. You can do a username search. Those phone numbers and everything. It's incredible. I'm looking for Brittany.
This is Brittany Manson's calling.
This issue, this abortion issue, is turning into a remarkably politically potent issue for people who want a return to, where the United States was for about 50 years, where women had a right to make healthcare decisions and make choices about their own bodies. We've seen in Kansas. We've seen in Kentucky. We've seen in one red state after another. We
No
saw
one back
some
home will ever believe
race in
that.
Wisconsin, landslide victories, all because Republicans are taking extremist views. And we saw it last night in a state that has gone deep red, Ohio.
Yes, voters overwhelmingly rejected a Republican-backed measure that would have made it more difficult to change the state's constitution. More than 3 million people went to the polls in Ohio's special election, voting to defeat Issue 1, which keeps the threshold for passing future constitutional amendments at a simple majority
This is all about abortion.
than 60% supermajority that was proposed.
And of course, this is all about abortion because they were going to have a referendum this fall, and suddenly the pro-life groups and the Republican legislators, Caddy, decided we're going to rig things. We're going to change the rules. We're going to require 60% because we know the majority of the people don't want women to have their healthcare decisions decided by men in state legislators. 57% of Ohio voters say no to rigging the process. 43% said yes. But, Caddy, that almost certainly ensures that this fall, Ohio will be yet another Republican state that pushes back against the abolition of Roe.
Yeah, Republicans wanted to make it so that you couldn't change a law in the part of the Constitution without 60%, having 60%. For decades it's been 50%. That's been fine for all the other amendments that they've had in the past, but when abortion was on the ballot, they wanted to make it that much harder for pro-abortion rights people to do it. Actually, that 57% is not far off the 60% that they were mandating. What's extraordinary about this is that it's August. A quarter of Ohioans. August. This is not even a vote on abortion. This is a vote on an amendment to the Constitution that is potentially about abortion. And even so, Ohioans turned out in huge numbers, and the campaign that had been campaigning on pro-abortion rights had thought this might be close. This reminds me of Kansas. This reminds me of that first vote we had where we were all surprised by the margin of the victory for the pro-abortion rights group. And here we are, a good more than a year after Dobbs, and it is still rallying people, 57%. That's a big victory for the pro-abortion rights group.
A huge victory, just like a huge victory in Wisconsin, a state that's always been very close. A huge victory in Kansas, another state that was red. Time and time again, you look at these polls and they just don't tell the tale. People like a year and a half out, are you going to vote for the guy that, for people that don't follow closely, it's like, are we going to vote for the guy who falls off his bike and stutters once in a while, or the guy who tried to take over the federal government with a riot and said he wanted to terminate the Constitution? And then you don't put other issues in there, and suddenly you get closer. It's just like 2022. Remember the red wave of 2022? Neither do I. You know why? Never happened. You know why it never happened? Abortion's a big issue. So some people, I know it's plain, if you write this morning for the Wall Street Journal editorial page or on Fox News, some people love American democracy. What kind of old-fashioned that way? I don't know. It's worked for us for 240 or so years. We'd like to keep it for another 240 years. So you had abortion and actually American democracy, because Americans aren't as stupid as editorial writers of the Wall Street Journal editorial page over the past week have believed them to be. They see through the lies, they see through the gaslighting, and they decide, hey, this is really troubling what this guy, maybe this guy over here could ride a bike if he wasn't sweating so much. This other guy, he falls off a bike once in a while. But wait a second. He actually believes in the Constitution of the United States. You add that and abortion together.
Yeah.
And it has been a potent political punch in the gut against Republicans who have been trying to take away women's rights.
And women's rights. You bring up a good point here, because I think what we're seeing here is that men and women are seeing health care being taken away from their families, from their loved ones. And while it is an issue of a woman's right to choose, it's also an issue of families' health, of a husband watching her husband, his wife have to bleed out because she can't get him the medication she needs for a fetal abnormality. This is an issue now that goes across the board. Men and women understand what has happened over the past few years with rights being taken away.
When you look, Sam Stein, at these numbers, 59% in Kansas, 57% in Ohio, again, red states, a landslide victory in a Supreme Court race up in Wisconsin, the Republicans called the most important race in years. When you see that happening, you don't get to 57, 58, 59% with only the women that went to the Women's March, like in 2017. You don't get there with left-wing activists. You don't get there with women. You get there with women, men, young, old,
Thank you.
black, white, Hispanic, you name it. This is an issue that cuts across all demographics, and it's shocking to me that the Republicans still have their head buried in the sand on this issue, because another election, I don't know if they know or not, is coming up next year.
Yeah, Tamika's point, it's men are involved in the pregnancy. Obviously, we don't carry the burden of the pregnancy, but we know what happens when we go with our wives. We feel very much part of the process, and I think it resonates, the issue of abortion, for men as much as women. And if you look at the issue on ideological grounds, there's a recent poll that showed that something like 35 to 40% of Republicans were upset over the Dobbs decision. Those numbers don't really happen in many other issues. And I think the proof now is in the pudding, so to speak. We have 3 major elections, probably just like Kansas, Wisconsin, and Ohio, where it's very evident that abortion rights is an incredible motivator. I would just add that in Ohio, Connie's right. They tried to sneak this in on some municipal election in the middle of August. Yes. It was fairly transparent what the anti-choice crowd was trying to do. And backfired pretty badly, obviously, with voters who felt like they were just being hoodwinked, who felt like they were being taken advantage of. It's already a bold proposition to ask voters to willingly vote to reduce their ability to change their state's constitution in the future.
Right.
But to do it in the fashion that they did, that these organizers did, to try to sneak it in a municipal election, obviously I think was insulting, frankly, to a lot of Ohioans, and it proved to be insulting by these numbers.
The thing about Donald Trump's Republican Party, one, they try to take away a presidential election. Two, they line up in support, and I won't name the editorial page again that does it, they line in support of a fake electors conspiracy plot, right? That their own people knew was unconstitutional, that their own people knew would be overturned by the United States Supreme Court, but they were doing it to confuse the issue and delay a constitutional process. And they wanted to throw out the votes of millions and millions of Americans in 7 states. Go to Tennessee. Again, more democracy nonsense. They actually kicked black members of the Tennessee legislature out because they dare raise their voices. They'll go up, they let the white woman stay in. That's interesting. Justice Republicans certainly aren't blind. Black legislator in Tennessee, and you speak up and speak out, they kick you out, right? And now you go to Ohio, and what do we have? You first of all have the women of Ohio have the right to make healthcare decisions for themselves. Or parents of 10-year-old girls who are raped, who have to flee the state so they can make healthcare decisions themselves. First, Republicans take that right away from Ohio women and Ohio families and Ohio doctors. With this scheme, and they say, your right to amend the Constitution the way we've done it for years. And we're going to sneak it in August. And you're going to now have to get 60% to try to claw back to get the right we've already taken away from women in Ohio and across America. As Scotty said before, this is August. August is such a dead month politically. Campaigns, before campaigns I ran, basically shut down markets, right? Because everybody's gone. Nobody's focused on anything. They're finishing their vacations, or they're getting their kids ready back for school. They're getting ready for the fall. They're getting ready for everything. Ohio voters flooded to the polls to tell these anti-democracy Republicans, no, one person, one vote, majority rules in these referendums. You can't change the rules midstream because you want to continue taking away the rights of women to make decisions over their own bodies.
Stay almost there for your winners. Is providing potentially damning new evidence about the plot to overturn the 2020 election results by Donald Trump and members of his inner circle. The memo, which was obtained by the New York Times and has not been verified by NBC News, was allegedly sent in early December 2020 by Trump lawyer Kenneth Cheeseborough.
Foul
Cheeseborough was
stench
one
of
of the
slaughter turns
co-conspirators
suddenly
identified but
sweet
not charged
through
in
the
the
rat's
Justice Department's
nose.
most recent indictment
Blood smell,
of the former
life smell,
president. In the
not
newly
like the great
obtained
hollow
note,
below,
Cheeseborough
which smells
outlines
only of
what
death.
would become known as the fake elector scheme, which falsely claimed former Vice President Mike Pence had the power to block the certification of the state's votes on January 6th.
And to lie about people who were going to be the electors, fake electors, to create a fraudulent slate of electors. And this is what Trump's defenders are calling free speech? No, that's like an attempt to defraud Americans,
Cheesebro
steal
allegedly
their
wrote
votes.
to another Trump lawyer about what he acknowledged was a quote bold and controversial strategy, but claimed
Something good here, I
he
hope.
was not necessarily advising this course of action. Despite trying to distance himself from the plan, though, the Times reports that just one day after sending that memo, it ended up on the desk of Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani.
Oh, that's just
not good.
not good for Rudy
As
or
for
anybody.
the fake elector scheme itself, Cheesebro even admitted that the Supreme Court was likely to end up rejecting the plan. But even in that case, he claimed that airing it out publicly would, quote, buy the Trump campaign more time to challenge the election.
Jonathan O'Meara, this is as clear as day. They're coming up with a fraudulent scheme that they know is illegal. They know the Supreme Court will reject it. But what are they trying to do? They're trying to illegally delay a constitutional proceeding. The Constitution of the United States says that the electors get together and they count the votes. The date is January the 6th. And here is a plan, a completely illegal scheme where they're going to get fake electors, have people lie that they're certified to be electors, and then have Mike Pence put these fake electors before the United States Congress. And in so doing, still what, 7 million, 8 million, 10 million? I mean, how many millions of votes are they stealing from people in swing states who are elected by actually the real electors who, again, are part of a constitutional process that Trump's trying to undermine? Again, the argument that this is somehow free speech, to have this illegal scheme that they knew is illegal, it's just, it's stupid even for Trump supporters and certain
Something's on
editorial
my mind.
pages.
Yeah, one of the charges Trump faces is violation of rights. Rights. It's one of them. They were trying to disenfranchise
Keep
millions
your
of
hands
Americans here
steady,
by tossing
three.
out their vote and trying to install these fake electors. And this memo
Stop
puts in
them.
place sort of
Free
a
me.
scheme that we have known has been out there. Prosecution against Trump.
Make it
In
squeal
Jackson's
again.
case there in Washington, this idea that it would
He's
they
helpless.
knew
Let him
Supreme
go.
Court, even that Supreme
It's
Court that was pretty
staying right
Trump-friendly in
here.
most ways,
The
had ruled
beast
against
came
them on
in here with
election
those
issues.
robbers,
We have
killed
documented
Dink
how
and
badly
Minx
they fared
too.
in courthouses across America in
Boss is
the weeks
thinking of
after
serving it to
Election
the
Day, November
wolves.
2020. There
But
was something like
first,
63
three
to 1.
more stones.
It's a very small
Make
percentage.
it nice and
They knew
bloody.
this wasn't going to pass legal standing.
Yeah.
That said, they were
Hit his
trying to
head.
buy
I wanna
time.
hear
They
more
were trying to buy time,
noises.
push for more cases.
As
They
the
were trying to
symbol
buy time to
glows,
install these
power
fake
courses
electors
through you.
and then put it to Mike Pence
Authority.
on January 6th. And if he had said, well, look, we've got competing sets of electors here, let's throw them all out, let's just
I'm putting
put
an
the
end to
House.
this now.
That's
Time
how
for
Trump
blood.
wins. The math worked in Trump's favor there. That's the scheme. That's how they wanted to stay in power, and that's how Jack Smith is going to proceed with his execution.
Yeah, I just add this. I mean, this reads to me like an overt plot to subvert the vote presented publicly as an insurance plan in case the court somehow intervened after, as Jonathan said, 63 or whatever decisions against the Trump campaign at that point. The other thing that stands out to me, though, is just how little, and again, most of the Trump's actual lawyers, what else? Action care the real consequences of the laws that may have been pushed or violated. But there were a select few people here, Kenneth Cheesebro and John Eastman, who simply it didn't occur to them or they didn't care enough about what the consequences spill out of such a strategy were. I mean, Cheesebro in this case is saying this is bold and controversial. In another memo, Eastman, I believe, said, something like, well, there's blood in the streets, but that's why we have the Insurrection Act. As if blood in the streets was just the price you pay for this type of strategy. And it's remarkable, I guess, to me, maybe a little bit shocking, that people were willing to just let their mind wander to those places in pursuit of what they understood privately to be controversial, even illegal steps to subvert democracy.
Well, and you look at their interruptions as a good. And again, they they understand that this scheme
The subtle
is it's not going to be seen as legal by the United States Supreme Court. They say as much. Mike Pence confronts Donald Trump later, saying even your own is telling you that this is not legal. The Supreme Court's going to overturn it. But they talk about how this will cause delay. It'll cause confusion. It may cause riots in the streets. And when that's brought up as a possibility that this will cause riots in the streets, they say, yeah, that's why we have the Insurrection Act. That's why we have the Army to put down riots. They're responsible for by pushing something they know is illegal.
Part of Donald Trump's defense, presumably, when this goes to trial, will be, well, I genuinely, as he said last night in New Hampshire in that, rather moist appearance, I genuinely believed that the election had been stolen. This is what my lawyers were telling me. I had good lawyers like Eastman telling me that this was the case, and so you will get into that because this is what my belief was. Well, then Jack Smith will come back with this kind of evidence. Here you are. You were presented with a plan, but you were also told by people like Mike Pence that this would not go anywhere, that this was, would not think that this was okay. So you're going to have a lot of this during the course of the trial, but maybe part of this was just to, we talked about this a lot around 2016. What was the aim of Russia? The aim of Russia was to sow chaos and a sense that democracy was not strong and dissatisfaction in the democratic system. And when you read this secret memo, it sounds like that. And part of the aim of this is to sow chaos and to make people think the system is not working.
It wasn't about actually a system that works, a process that works. They knew the Supreme Court was going to overturn it. It was about creating the delay, creating the chaos, and if riots happened, as they said, that's why we have the Army. That's why we have the Insurrection Act. Then we can use the Insurrection Act to take the army in the street, put down the riots of people whose votes have been stolen, and then Trump can declare martial law, which is basically what they're talking about doing. And yeah, this is what Russia, Wall Street Journal editorial page, this is what Russia was trying to do in 2016. This is what Russia admitted they were trying to do in 2016. This is what the head of the Wagner Group bragged about, saying, do you remember how successful our campaign was in America in 2016? Come on, Russian hosts, you shame yourself every day. You shame yourself every day. If you don't see a linkage here,
Right.
if you don't see the linkage of the Russians trying to sow confusion, and then Donald Trump on his own, learning from people that he's always admired on his own.
Have to keep going.
Just create a process that is so that will sow delay, and if he's lucky, it's in the streets, and they can use the Insurrection Act to declare martial law. If you call it free speech, guess what? Most Americans agree with me and not you. You're disgusting. You're absolutely disgusting if you're going to forgive this type of behavior. And I say that to the Republican establishment that's there's two standards of justice here. Hunter Biden's laptop, Hunter Biden, and over here we're talking about an illegal scheme. To get riots in the streets if Donald Trump can declare martial law, and you're saying there's some sort of legal equivalency? There's some sort of moral equivalency? That's grotesque. And what's so sad for you is you know it's grotesque. The entire Republican establishment knows it's gross. You've got a guy trying to steal an election, and you've got a prosecutor that's trying to bring him to justice. And if this guy were a Democrat, you'd already have him locked up. Jack Smith's trying to bring this guy to justice. What do? You sit back silently. Talk about O2 standards of justice. And then you're silent as Donald Trump lets a federal prosecutor, an officer of the United States court system, coming after you. Silence. And you wonder why we keep losing elections.
Download the Domino's app today and become a subscriber to our Floyd Store free pizza.
Still on my feet.
Democratic
Don't
Senator
waste a step.
Ohio and Sherrod Brown, Senator Brown, turnout was overwhelming. It seems to me that Ohio follows Kansas, follows Wisconsin, follows one state that is sort of purplish red, where voters came out and said, enough, we want women to keep their rights over their bodies.
What you just said, what both of you said about turnout, this was 4 times the turnout that Secretary of State had predicted, and the race was overwhelming. I mean, it was clearly a rejection of the power grab of
Let's end this.
politicians in Columbus from making it, and the voters rejected. Certainly was about abortion, but certainly was about the corruption of the power grab by state officials, with a huge turnout and a compelling 14-point margin. So, it's a bipartisan.
Explain a bit what you think happened. I mean, we're in the middle of August. It's a special election. This is a pretty large...
Pardon the viscera. One should cherish all of nature's bounty, but goblin guts are quite far down the list.
For some, I would think it
Not only do you speak with a bear, but you free it too? A true friend of nature. Or perhaps a lunatic. Either way, I owe thanks. I am the druid Halsin.
When abortion rights was at stake, when just this power grab for the future, whether it's labor rights,
Glad I could be
rights, or abortion rights that state house politicians wanted to take away with this power grab, yet voters were also saying, work together on the
Yes, but just Halsin will suffice. Unbecoming to demand honorifics from the one who saved my hide.
I think voters spoke about that too. You got to work together. No more one-party rule. No more power grabs.
Gotta give you help.
I must admit, I didn't expect anyone would come to my aid. Who in their right mind would infiltrate a goblin-infested temple? Unless... that look in your eyes. I've seen it before. Are you feeling all right?
And what the vote on issue 1 might presage in Ohio. The state that is trending redder and redder. But what it might presage for the state next year.
Well, what I'm looking forward to is a couple things that doing what we need to do, fighting
Oak Father preserve you, child.
Wall Street executives accountable.
You're infected, aren't you? The Mind Flayer's spawn.
All those things,
But something's different. You're aware of the monster inside you. You don't bow to the absolute like the true souls do. How is this possible?
That's the way it is. I ask people that when you talk about next year to go to ShareBrown.com.
I escaped from an illicit ship after being infected. Maybe the process was interrupted.
Perhaps. But I wouldn't want to place all my faith in blind luck. It's no coincidence that you found me here, I'll wager. You're after a cure for this parasite. I've been studying these parasites for a while now. Ever since I discovered these so-called true souls are infected with them, someone is using very powerful magic to modify these tadpoles. They're using them to exert control over the infected. I'm sorry to say, I can't undo that magic, which means I can't cure you. But that doesn't mean I can't help.
Yeah, we're not getting a point in Washington, D.C.
I didn't find what I came here for, a way to remove the tadpoles. But I found the next best thing. I found out where they come from. That must be where these enchantments are placed on them. And it's where you'll find your cure.
We can throw all the money we want to. But unless we send
Tell me what you learned about the tadpole's origins.
I overheard that the cultists are sending all of their captives to Moonrise Towers. Innocents go in, true souls come out. Given that all of these true souls are infected, it has to be the source for this magic. If you want to find a cure, you must head there and discover how the tadpoles are being manipulated.
To keep Central and Eastern Europe free from Russian or Soviet aggression.
You seem to know a lot about this. Will you come with me to Moonrise?
I wish I could, but there's still work I've yet to finish. Blood I've yet to spill. I've no right to ask more of you. But if you could help me, I'd be free to join your journey to Moonrise. I cannot allow these butchers to threaten my grove. The natural order must be protected.
We fight to end the Cold War, so we send messages to
Alright, how do I help?
dictators or tyrants.
My thanks. If you prevail, I'll owe you the debt of a lifetime. Rare is the beast that survives decapitation. Help me eliminate the Drow Minthara, the Hobgoblin Draw Ragslin, and that perversion of a priestess, Gut. They are the ones holding these parasites together. Remove them, and nature will cure itself.
That was Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville bragging about his votes against funding.
Having a shapeshifting bear druid at my side might make things easier.
Be warned. My presence could make things more difficult. I can only restrain my bear form so much. I won't be able to help but attack goblins. If I join you, we'll likely have to slaughter this entire place. You may want to use discretion when approaching the goblin leaders.
Come with me.
So be it. May Sylvanas lend us nature's fury.
Wild idea that you should debate about social issues, military issues.
It's a twofer for Tommy because not only is he hurting our military readiness, he's also making women think twice about joining the military.
No, well,
Good on ya.
and so the commandant, there is a commandant.
All right, time to see what new horror's waiting for us.
He stalled 300 military promotions since February, and now the Army, like the Marine Corps, do not have confirmed leaders.
What path lies before me?
History. The United States Army, thanks to Tommy Tuberville and Republicans in the United States Senate who are letting this happen, the United States Army no longer has a confirmed leader joining the Marines for the first time in 150 years. Let's bring right now Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, retired 4-star Navy Admiral James Trevitas. He's the chief international analyst for NBC News. A lot to talk to you here about, Admiral, but I can tell you, whenever I would go over the Pentagon, there were some debates going on in the Armed Services Committee where I was, and it had to do with social issues. It didn't matter what those generals or admirals were, whether they were Republicans or Democrats, whether you assumed they were or guessed they were not. They would say, son, can you just debate abortion? Can you tell your committee members to debate abortion or these other issues, gay rights issues, on the House floor, and just worry about making the military strong and keeping our readiness up? Say I've seen something. I've never seen anything like this, Admiral. Have you?
No, I've not. And, I had 6 tours in the Pentagon over my long career in the Navy. I know the Hill very, very well. One of the hallmarks of good governance is making sure your military is apolitical. And what I would say to Senator Tuberville, who I guess used to be a football coach, hey, Coach, this is not a game we're playing over there. And let's face it, this is hurting military readiness. It is hurting military families. They can't move because of these holds. You mentioned the Marine Corps and the Joint Chiefs. It's also the U.S. Navy. Our first female Chief of Naval Operations, Lisa Franchetti's on hold. None of this makes any sense, Coach, and you ought to know better. And frankly, Joe, every time I interacted with members up on the Hill, they parked the social issues at the door. That's what we want them to. Last thought on this, Senator Tuberville, how are you going to feel when Senator Left Wing 2 years from now says, oh, I'm not going to confirm anybody until the Pentagon walks away from fossil fuels, for example. This is a nuclear weapon you're using, and it is not making sense, and it's hurting the American military.
In 10 degrees of this room, Nice job with the air conditioning, women.
So, thank you guys for being with us. Vaughn, first of all, take a nice swear this has nothing to do with this, nothing to do with how much you were sweating last night. But just politically, give us a temperature of the room. How were they feeling about Trump? How were they feeling about, no, I mean, people say, take a temperature of the room.
Read the room.
Read the room for us. If they're going to a Trump rally, most of them are going to be rock ribs, Trump supporters. Is that what you found there? Were there any people that were questioning whether he could actually win in a general election, or are they all in for Donald Trump?
My dry idea were perfectly fine yesterday to know, but when we're looking at that gymnasium yesterday, I think this hits at the point here that, Joe, you were just making. For all the attention on the past, I think that what was so striking to me yesterday was I've covered a heck of a lot of these rallies over the last 9 years, and that was the most defiant Donald Trump that I have ever witnessed. For Donald Trump, this is not just about him. To a certain extent, he's powerless as a defendant in the courtroom unless he takes a stand. But what Donald Trump is able to do is mobilize his political operation to use it as a bludgeon against the U.S. justice system. We have seen him do it against the U.S. election system. We have seen him do it against the U.S. media. For now, here in this moment, it is about mobilizing these millions of Americans to initiate a distrust in the courtroom proceedings that are about to take place. I want to let you hear from two of the folks I talked to, because when I stood there in that room and talked with these voters here, for Donald Trump, he told that crowd that his base, the MAGA base, is the most passionate and spirited that it's ever been. And while that MAGA base may have shrunk over the last
the bear
4
got
years,
stuck.
I don't think he's wrong in his assessment about those that still remain. Take a look.
That's Nazi Germany, Hitler. You can't silence your political opponents because you don't agree with them. Joe Biden should be in prison for his bribes.
The vote was stolen. I believe it. In my heart, remember they blew up one of the election quarters where they kept all of the Dominion machines. Why'd that blow up?
If Donald Trump were to be found guilty by a jury, where do you see this going?
Civil war. Civil war. Divide it up because we can't live together, obviously.
Even if your team's not in the same place, your work can't be. You just like Asana. Asana organizes work, so teams know what to do, why it matters, and how to get it done. Try it for free at asana.com. That's ASANA.
Guys, I think this is about the inherent danger of where Donald Trump takes this from here. Forget about the election. Forget about general election whether he can win or not here. If Donald Trump is found guilty by a jury, where does this go from here? I know that we did not foresee an actual physical attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, and I can't begin to foresee an event of what may sides coming out of a guilty conviction or another election loss from Donald Trump. But what I'm increasingly convinced by from conversations like those across this country is that we are increasingly getting closer to an event, whatever that event may be. That event is becoming increasingly clear because Donald Trump does may not win the election, but be there to defend him to the very end, whatever that end may look like.
This is where Republican leaders are so needed, and they are so present for the truth, for reality. We need 100 times over. Remember when he said to that member of the audience, "No, you're wrong," when the disparaging comment, the untrue comment was made about
Need to stay focused.
This is why this is pervading, because other Republican leaders, members of Congress, Trumpers, people who have either been infected by his lies or know Kevin McCarthy, that he is a liar and has committed crimes against this democracy. You know it to your core, and you play that game. And these people are caught in the middle. These people are infected with lies. To the Capitol on January 6th.
But if Kevin McCarthy, if Mitch McConnell, if members from New Hampshire's Republicans
They know
in
better.
New Hampshire said that, they would immediately become the outsiders. They would immediately become part of the deep state, which is part of the problem. It's also part of the reason why you've seen a boiling down of the number of Trump supporters. It's gotten smaller. It has gotten, I think it has gotten more intense. And as people have made the point, it's not really a political campaign. It's a movement.
It's a threat.
But it's a movement, Michael, that you have a movement that he started by calling the press enemies of the state. He then undermined Americans' confidence in elections when he knew he was going to lose. He started talking about how American democracy was rigged, and so he turned his supporters against that. Now he's turning his supporters against the judicial system, the law of the United States, because he knows he's going to be found guilty of some of these charges because he committed the crimes.
Nothing will stand in my way.
What are you hearing on the Hill? We certainly hear what members say publicly. Are you hearing any concerns privately from Republicans about the continued radicalization of Donald Trump and his supporters?
Absolutely, some moderates and more centrists in the party have been voicing concerns about this. There are a number of lawmakers up on Capitol Hill who have said, a number of Republicans rather, who are those moderates and centrists who have said that they don't want to see Donald Trump be the Republican nominee come 2024. Lawmakers, Republicans who have endorsed some of Donald Trump's challengers. But look, the reality of it is that Donald Trump is still the leader of the Republican Party. He's, of course, the overall frontrunner in the GOP primary. And when we talk about some of these followers, particularly those ones up on Capitol Hill, who could become the minority of the party if they were to speak out against Donald Trump, we saw some lawmakers try this out after January 6th. You talked about Speaker Kevin McCarthy back when he was minority leader. We'll all remember that days after the January 6th Capitol riot, Kevin McCarthy went to the House floor during those and actually said President Trump bore responsibility for the riot and said that he needs to take responsibility for the actions that happened on January 6th. Just days after that, he said that, well, he doesn't think that Donald Trump provoked the riot, and he thinks that, well, Donald Trump bore some responsibility. There are also people across the country bear responsibility. And then after that, of course, there was that infamous trip down to Mar-a-Lago to meet with the president. So after January 6th, Kevin McCarthy and some other Republicans tried out this state of being of going against President Trump and criticizing him. But the fact of the matter is that time showed that the party was sticking behind Donald Trump. The GOP was staying behind Trump. And because of that firm grip and that firm grasp on the party, a number of these lawmakers called on President Trump's side. And that's what we're seeing play out right now in the wake of this indictment after indictment after indictment. Now as the House Select Committee will focus today on the investigation into Donald Trump's efforts to pressure state officials as part of his campaign to remain president, even though he lost the 2020 election fair and square. Today's focus, that infamous phone call where he implored Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to help find the votes he needed to win the state.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes.
The hearing starting within the next hour with our team covering coverage, beginning with our Rachel Scott and a look at what we can expect today. The House Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection is set to focus on Trump's pressure campaign on state officials to overturn the 2020 election.
Great, he healed.
But he still called Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, pushing him to find enough votes to keep Joe Biden from winning.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes.
Raffensperger refused to do it, and today he will be testifying before the committee.
The people of Georgia spoke in this election. Systemic fraud, not enough to overturn the election.
Also on the list of witnesses, Arizona's House Speaker Rusty Bell, a Republican who says he also resisted pressure by Trump and his allies. He was honored at the JFK Profile and Courage Award ceremony.
To respect the people's choice at the ballot box. These acts should not be noteworthy, nor should they be praiseworthy.
And Gabe Sterling, a top Georgia election official who said the threats against state workers have gone too far.
Someone's gonna get shot, someone's gonna get killed.
The committee will hear from a target of those attacks. Shane Moss, a Georgia election worker who counted ballots on election night and received death threats, falsely accused of altering the results. In her opening statement claiming people showed up at my grandmother's home trying to bust the door down and conduct a citizen's arrest of my mom and me.
And our team coverage continues now with ABC News political director Rick Klein, White House correspondent Mary Alice, also congressional correspondent Rachel Scott, who you just heard from there. Rachel, let's talk about the impact that these hearings have had on the American people so far. I know there have been a number of polls out there.
Yeah, and especially ours that was just conducted days ago, our ABC News Ipsos poll that really does give us interpretation. Americans are viewing these hearings as they are playing out. The biggest headline there, nearly 6 in 10 Americans believe that Trump should be charged. But when it comes down to who is actually watching these hearings, only 9% of Americans say that they're watching these hearings very closely, and it's extremely divided along partisan lines, with Democrats more likely to be paying closer attention to these hearings, but also when asked whether or not this would make an impact of what they've seen or heard or read is going to impact their vote in November. The majority of Americans said that it would not, Karen.
So, Mary Alice, let's talk about how valuable today's testimony from Arizona and Georgia election officials will be as the committee just dives into this pressure campaign that the former president not only put on his vice president, but a number of state officials.
Yeah, Carrie, I think it's really significant to hear from these local officials. First, it reminds Americans that we run elections at the local level. It's part of what makes elections so secure in this country, actually, is that every
I may
state
have
has its
to
own system, has
speed
its own way of
through
doing audits and recounts, of making sure that one
the freeing
voter
of the
gets one
bear
vote. And so
again.
it's reminding Americans that that decentralized system is part of what makes elections secure. It also serves to remind Americans that it was actually a lot of Republicans who stood back up to the president and said, I'm not willing to break the law and lie for you. You're going to have to accept that you lost the election. You're going to have to
Hello. Welcome aboard the Astral Express. My name is March 7th. I'm one of the passengers.
You're hovering, wondering if you click buy or book, is your personal info going to be safe? With worry-free protection, your identity, privacy, and...
Have you ever heard of the Moon Sisters? Well, if you look up in the night sky now, you'll see a single moon. But legend says that a long, long time ago, there were once 3 moons in Tibet, named Arya, Sonnet, and Kennen. They were sisters and the sovereigns of the night sky, taking turns driving a silver moon chariot across the heavens. These sisters once blessed the union between one of their Seelie brethren and an unknown traveler from afar within the halls of their lunar palace. But shortly after this, a great calamity struck. The sisters turned on each other, two of them crushed to dust and fell to the earth, and the third still lingered in the sky. Whether that last remaining moon is alive or dead remains to be seen. Now, the Seelie and the traveler they married fled the calamity for a time, but it soon caught up with them, and they were forced to separate, losing their memories in the process. As for the rest of the Seelie race, they began to fade away until they were nothing more than ghostly wisps. But here's the thing. All we have to work with when it comes to the Moon Sisters are legends. There are no historical records, no personal accounts, no real hard evidence that there ever really were 3 moons in the sky, and that this is what happened to them. The only real reference we have to them right now that isn't steeped in myth or legend comes from the Staff of Scarlet Sands. And all that account says is that the number of the moons should be 3, but it doesn't say anything else. There's no details on the calamity, no talk of the sisters, no nothing. And this is what makes the disappearance of the Moon Sisters and the fall of the Seelie race all the more fascinating. So, today, in this video, I want to make an attempt at putting together a prehistoric Tibetan timeline to pinpoint exactly when the moons fell, and possibly why. As per usual, you can find links for further reading down in the description box below, including links to where you can read all of the different variations of the Moon Sister legends. And you can also find notes and corrections for this video in the pinned comment. Also, this video kind of assumes that you've been paying at least a little bit of attention to world and story quests that happen outside of the main story and Archon quests. If you haven't been, then you might find this video a wee bit difficult to follow, because I'm not going to stop and explain every single little detail. Check the links in the description for that.
Something
anyway,
the matter?
You were warned. So, let's begin the speculation. In
If you're
ancient
sure.
times, the world we now call Teyvat was inhabited by dragons and no humans whatsoever, supposedly. From out of seemingly nowhere, an androgynous winged being known as the Primordial One arrived on Teyvat and promptly went
The
to
Blade
war
of
with
Frontiers
dragons,
at your
claim
calling.
this world for itself in order to colonize it and
That's
put
the
humans
spirit.
on it. And with the help of its 4 shadows, the Primordial One was able to successfully conquer the land, forcing the dragons into a strategic retreat, as we shall call it. And with the help of its 4 shades, the Primordial One was able to successfully conquer the land, forcing the dragons to submit to their control or to retreat from the surface. But the dragons hadn't given up hope of turning the tide of battle. The Dragon King Nibelung left the surface in search of what we now call forbidden knowledge, believing that it was the key to victory against the Primordial One. But while the Dragon King was busy hunting for forbidden knowledge, the Primordial One began to prepare the land for humans, throwing down spikes that we call celestial nails, and those completely transformed the landscape. The entire realm of Sumeru, for example, used to be a lush rainforest, and not just this small part. It took one celestial nail to turn
You
this
believe you can
entire
survive
area
without
into
me?
a vast desert.
As you say.
Now, I realize that my phrasing makes it sound like the Dragon King and the Primordial One never fought each other, but it's very possible.
Alright, it's time for us to assemble the boy band.
Our only real source of information on this particular incident
do enjoy
comes
our
from Apep,
conversations.
and she's a little bit vague.
What do you need?
She also has a line that says he returned, and I'm not sure if that means he returned from acquiring forbidden knowledge or he returned
We
from
all
the
have our
dead, or
burdens.
both.
One way
Because
or the
up to
other.
this point, we'd never heard of a singular ultimate Dragon King, which means his presence is either hidden or secret.
With
or he's
pleasure.
just straight up
Lead
dead.
on.
Anyway, regardless, all of this should have occurred more than 6,000 years ago, because that's the first solid date that we have in the timeline, as it is the approximate age of Zhongli. We know that he descended to Teyvat when he was still very young, and then raised a mountain which attracted humans. This means that by the time he was in Teyvat, humans had already been created, but that couldn't have happened until after the war with the dragons was mostly over. Now, you'll notice that I have not mentioned any moons yet, and that's because there are no moons mentioned in any of our non-legendary sources of historical information, as I mentioned earlier. However, what we do know is that the Seelies were created by the Primordial One to guide humanity, and humanity was created by the Primordial One as well, presumably. And then the Seelies also appear to be of a lower rank than the Moon Sisters, meaning that the Moon Sisters must have been affiliated with the Primordial One. This logic has led to the popular theory that at least 3 of the Primordial One's shades were actually the Moon Sisters themselves. It's either that, or there were 4 shades and 3 moons, which would make for a total of 7 divine beings that would rule the heavens, and that kind of fits in with Teyvat's whole cycle of 7 rulers, right? 7 dragons. dragon sovereigns, 7 archons. Makes sense to have 7 primordial one subsidiaries, whatever that would be called. Both are equally possible. But because
Elminster's
things
not
are still
around,
kind
so
of
might as
up
well.
in the air, I don't want to talk about Istaroth at all because she's only ever really been identified as a shade, and I don't want to get into the debate about whether or not she's also a moon, okay? Okay, getting back on track. At this point in time, about 6,000 years ago, the dragons were still in hiding, humans had just been brought into the world, Celes had been
Blade at the ready.
guide them, and there were also 3 moon sisters who may or may not have been. Got all that? Good. Now, the second oldest date that we have on record is 3,700 years ago, a date that marks the foundation of Liyue Harbor, the death of Gui Zhang, and the fall of the Guili Assembly, and also it's the earliest mention of the Archon War. According to the book Before Sun and Moon, the period between 6,000 and 3,700 years ago should have been the era of the unified civilization, and it was an era of prosperity and peace. Well, for the humans, I mean. The dragons were screwed and kind of in hiding at this point. Anyway, also in the book Before Sun and Moon is a passage that marks the end of the unified civilization, which happened roughly when the invaders from beyond the firmament came and incited a second war that was likened only to the war between the Primordial One and the dragons. These invaders are known only as the Second Throne or the Second King. That is the same war that caused Exodia to sink beneath the sea. This is where the records of Before Sun and Moon end, and where we have to start looking at other sources, like the Flowers of Paradise Lost artifact set. In that set, it says that the Second Throne brought with it a natural phenomenon that sounds a whole lot like forbidden knowledge to me. To be clear, what it really says is that the invaders brought with them destruction, plagues, and illusions that could break through the shackles of the land, and then it continues to call it the rising tide of delusion. Now, forbidden knowledge, referred to as a plague in some cases, and in the case of Deshret, it was rather liquid visually, and it drove people insane. There's the rising tide of delusion. See what I'm getting at? Well, anyway, this disaster tore the earth asunder, and in order to heal the land, the Primordial One threw down even more of their celestial nails that they used to terraform the earth and fight back the dragons at the beginning of time.
Onward.
And you may recall that the dark mud in the chasm, which can be repelled by the celestial nails, is actually stabilized forbidden knowledge. So I feel pretty confident linking the forbidden knowledge to whatever it was with the invaders or the Second Throne. Now it's curious to me that they say invaders came from beyond the firmament, so the sky dome, but also that the plagues they brought with them are basically just forbidden knowledge, because forbidden knowledge is what the Dragon King was pursuing, making it very plausible that the Second Throne was affiliated with the Dragon King or the Dragon King himself. Whatever the case, the important thing here is that there were 2 instances where the Primordial One threw down celestial nails. Once at the very, very beginning, pre-6,000 years ago, and once...
Did you know that you can actually hire the editor of the editors, proofreaders, and designers who worked on major bestsellers and hire them to work on your book? Browse through our hand-picked professionals. Find candidates with expertise in your genre, and reach out to your editor or designer. Subscribe to Readsy today and publish it.
Ah, crap.
When the Second Throne came. Now, during the time when the Second Throne arrived, one of these celestial nails hit the mountain that we call Dragonflight and destroyed a sacred tree there, causing the entire fertile mountain and Sol Vindicnir civilization to be encased in an endless winter. This is a a very important thing because the civilization of Dragonstein had regular contact with the envoys of heaven, which we call the Sealies. But after the nail fell, they never heard from them again. We know from all these legends surrounding the Moon Sisters and the Goddess of Flowers, who we'll talk about in a minute, that the Sealies all withered away when the moons died. So if this is the last recorded instance of the Sealies interacting with humans, then this must be around the time the moons died. This means that the moons died in the war with the Second Throne. And this is so important because we have multiple myths that say the Moon Sisters fear each other, and we also know that the forbidden knowledge can drive people insane. And if the Second Throne really did leverage forbidden knowledge like it seems they did, then it's very possible that the forbidden knowledge was responsible for the humans fighting against them. It's also their fault. And that also means that forbidden knowledge was responsible for wiping out the entire race of Sealies, which is frightening. But anyway, now remember, this should have happened pretty close to that 3,700 year mark, within, a few hundred years of that, or so, if I had to guess. And there was
Another
one other
fight.
really important
Let's
event
go.
that happened around that time. While it is true that most of the Sealies lost their physical forms during this time, there was one very important survivor that we know of as the Goddess of Flowers. Curiously, she's exiled from heaven, and she was forbidden to look back upon it, which makes you wonder if the Primordial One was wary of her or any of the other Sealies becoming infected with forbidden knowledge and becoming a threat. In any case, she miraculously was able to keep her physical form and ended up wandering the desert for 72 years. She had to have been alone in the desert for long enough to not only create the paradise of Jin, but also to create the city of Tule-Tula before meeting and becoming friends with both Deshret and Devada. And yes, this event had to have happened a short while before the 3,700 years ago mark, because the 3,700 years ago mark is the earliest we have of the Archon War. And Deshret was offered a gnosis from Celestia, which was supposed to be one of the prizes of the Archon War. And it was offered to him while he was friends with both Devada and the Goddess of Flowers. That 3,700 years ago mark is really starting to be a very important date, don't you think? And it's gonna make it more important. You see, not long after the Celestial Nail fell on Dragonstein, there was a message left behind by the sky that talks about a rumor they've heard about a civilization being built without gods, and they believe that that nation had the power to stand. And if it wasn't obvious, yeah, they're talking about Conria. But that means that the establishment of Conria would have happened roughly around the fall of the Celestial Nail and Dragonstein, which should have only fallen during the War with the Second Throne, which should have happened a few hundred years before 3,700 years ago. So, like maybe 4,000 years ago. Because we have to assume that Conria is pretty well established by the 3,700 year mark, because that's when Guizhong died. Know that Guizhong was fascinated by the technology of Conria, and has ruin guards in her own personal domain where she studied them. She would capture them and study them. That means that Conria must have been established somewhere between the arrival of the throne and the fall of the Guili Assembly when Guizhong died 3,700 years ago. That's why I gave it the 4,000 year mark. And when you really stop to think about it, this placement in the timeline starts to make a lot of sense. Because it didn't make much sense why Conria would hate the gods so much. The gods worked in favor of humans that broke their trust in the gods. I would imagine that the events and the war following the arrival of the Second Throne to have brought with it some unsavory revelations. Enough so that Conria would retreat underground and build a nation where gods could not reach them, building an army of machines to protect their people from the monsters of the abyss and from the gods themselves. So what does this all mean? Well, it means that I believe the Second Throne rose up against Celestia and the Primordial One about 4,000 years ago, and that was the event that destroyed the moons, killed the Sealies, sank Enthymia, destroyed Dragonstein, and inspired the people of Conria to build a nation without gods. I also believe
what forbidden knowledge can do to people. We know what it can do to dragons, and if my speculation is correct, we know it has the power to destroy beings as powerful as the Moon Sisters. And both Deshret and Nibelung believe that forbidden knowledge itself could defeat even the Primordial One. So put yourself in the Primordial One's position for a minute. 3 of your subordinates are corrupted or dead, an entire legion of your sealies is wiped out, and the land is filled with poison. That forbidden knowledge, even after you've suppressed it with the celestial nails, made its way into the systems of the demon gods like Osial and Guizhong, corrupting them and causing wide-scale destruction. Or maybe that's what was already happening. Maybe, for example, Decoravian wasn't misguided when he barricaded himself in the evil Mondstadt inside of a wind barrier. Maybe he was infected by forbidden knowledge and it made him paranoid or drunk on power. Maybe Bachao, Osial, and the Che were all corrupted. Maybe Guizhong was too, and that's why the Yaksha had to watching her turn into stone, not unlike the petrified rift wolves in the desert. And maybe the purpose of the Archon War was more of a necessity. Only the strongest and purest of the demon gods were left, the ones who loved the while the rest were merely liabilities in the struggle against the pull of forbidden knowledge.
I won't give in.
It's a pretty interesting thing to think about. But hey, what do I know? This is all just a theory.
Ah, crap.
Nope, I won't say it. I will not give you the satisfaction. Won't do it. In fact, I'm gonna go. That's it. That's all I've got for today. So, and thank you all so much for watching, and a very special thank you to all of my beautiful channel members who have been because my mind at my day job is using my butt as its own personal punching bag. I am in pain. But if you have thoughts on the timeline or what might have happened below, let me know. Leave a comment or, whatever is the cool kids do these days. I'm gonna hit some ice fry buttons. Take care, guys, and I'll see you next time.
I don't fancy their chances. Let's light them up. Nothing important is ever easy.
Only 2 the casual shorts was sold more than 6,700 on Temu. 4 colors to choose.
Detecting what others most deem smokestacks.
I can use some healing.
On the NewsHour tonight, former President Trump calls for the judge overseeing the 2020 election interference case to recuse herself and change the venue.
I go from
He
here.
argues he cannot get a fair trial in D.C. Secretary of the Interior Deb Haaland discusses a new monument near the Grand Canyon that protects sacred indigenous land and bans mining. And many American cities look to convert corporate spaces into housing units as the future of downtown office work remains in question.
What we're seeing right now is a lot of developers and owners making that decision to go residential because there's a lack of business in the office market.
Major funding for the people has been provided by the ongoing support of these individuals and millions in the news hour.
I need healing!
Paul Anderson
Now!
and Camilla and George is
dead. Seems these true souls have their limits.
All right. Time to see what new horror's waiting for us.
Time to get going.
Over here.
Still breathing, despite everything. Witching hour. The lesson is death. Today you fall.
Saving just in case the game crashes. New save. Yes.
Let's see what this does.
Did you know that the vast majority of self-published books don't sell more than a few copies? It's because their authors didn't take the time to get them.
Judge Chanya Chutkan, the judge overseeing the attempts of Donald Trump to overturn the 2020 election that, of course, he's been indicted for, has now reportedly had to receive upgraded security. More security.
Wish I got
because of the threats coming from Donald Trump, and I'm assuming the threats coming from Trump's supporters that we have also seen coming against people like Fani Willis in Fulton County. We have seen them coming against Bragg in New York. We have seen them coming against the judge overseeing the trial in New York.
As the symbol glows, power courses through you. Authority.
Ends up having to investigate
Putting an end to this now.
Time for
or
blood.
understand one of his trials, ends up getting so many threats that we have to spend more money, tax dollars, to protect these people from the crazed Trump supporters. Now, here's what drives me crazy about this particular story. And I'm not faulting the judge at all. But the judge has power here. The judge has options. If she is already having to receive increased security, then that means that the threats that we don't know about are more intense than we think. And this judge has the power, to a degree, to put an end to it. Now, as of this recording, she has not yet issued a ruling about what she is going to do about Donald Trump's repeated threats against her, his threat on Truth Social, if you come after me, I'm coming after you. So we're still waiting on that ruling, and she very well could put him in jail. She has that authority. He signed an order saying, I am not going to intimidate or threaten anyone, and then he immediately turns around and intimidates and threatens everybody. So she could do it. She could say, listen, guess what, bud? You're going to jail until the trial. Oh, and things are a little backlog. I'm not going to be able to get to this trial for another 2 years. Oops. That's possible. It's not ethical, but it's possible. But delaying the trial intentionally to keep him in jail is not ethical. Putting him in jail for violating a court order, that's not only the ethical thing to do, that's the equal thing to do. If I had done that, you had done that, if anybody else in this country had done that, we would already be in the jail cell. Taking the time, like,
Sometimes the only way out is through.
And I get it too. I get the fact that this is an unprecedented situation with an unprecedented trial. She is in a position I do not envy at all. It is a difficult position. All of these people taking on Donald Trump. All of the judges overseeing the cases, even Judge Eileen Cannon, who, by the way, has also been getting death threats. Not okay. All of these judges are in extraordinary positions. And they're trying to navigate these waters that are completely uncharted. And it is difficult for them. So that's why I'm saying I'm not faulting the judge. I know, again, if it was any one of us, yeah, they'd throw us in jail immediately, but this is different. This is the former president. But more importantly, this is a former president that has a cult. And it's those people that they're worried about. They're not worried about Trump. Trump can't do anything to hurt them. But he can inspire his followers to do the hurting for him. And that's what these judges are being incredibly careful about. Because if Trump gets put in a jail cell, there will be riots. His people will go nuts. January 6th is going to look like a walk in the park compared to what those nut jobs will do if he goes to jail. So that's why this is such a tough position for that judge. But sometimes that does mean making that difficult choice. I don't want anything to happen to this judge at all, which is why I'm kind of leery saying you have to do this. But for her own safety and the safety of the other judges out there, she may have to do this. Ring of Fire has fresh content 7 days a week, so if you want to be reminded about it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video goes up.
Gameplay is the best way to try a new game. Rent it, love it, buy it at a discount, or send it back. Members swap the games they want on their schedule. Visit GamePlay.com today to join. You must be 18 or older to subscribe.
Coming through.
Still using Google for searching someone?
Tonight is a major victory for democracy in Ohio. The majority still rules in Ohio.
We have some breaking news out of Ohio tonight where voters went to the polls in an election with just one single issue with a whole lot of implications. The Associated Press has now called the race in Ohio has rejected ballot issue 1 with about 57% of the state voting no.
Keep going.
That number is with about 52% of precincts reporting, according to unofficial results from the Ohio Secretary of State. Ballot Issue 1 was a measure to raise the threshold for changing constitutional amendments. Essentially, it would have made those amendments harder to pass. In gerrymandered states, especially, ballot referendums on constitutional amendments have been ways that voters can make their voices heard, especially when it comes to big-ticket issues like reproductive choice. Not coincidentally, there is one such referendum on this November's ballot in Ohio, one that, if it passes, could protect abortion rights and stands a very good chance of passing, especially with the results we have tonight. And that is why Republicans in the state tried to make it harder to get those sorts of referendums passed. Now, there has been record-breaking turnout in this August election, which is somewhat ironic because earlier this year, state Republicans voted to eliminate August elections, citing the traditionally low turnout for elections at this time of year. But those very same Republicans changed their minds this summer because presumably that traditionally low turnout would have benefited them on this issue specifically. And said that as of last Friday, more than 578,000 people had already cast their ballots, which is more than twice the number of people who voted early for the 2022 primary. Joining me now is Katie Paris, founder of Red Wine and Blue, a group of suburban women working to counter right-wing extremism, who also oppose ballot issue 1. Paris, thanks for being here tonight. I suppose congratulations are in order. This is an issue that you guys fought hard for. Can you talk to me about what women were telling you about ballot issue 1 and what motivated them to polls in Ohio, a state that is reddish, if not red entirely? Oh, well, women were very clear in their rejection of extremism in this election. And there's no doubt that our desire, that our demand to get our reproductive rights back is a huge force in this election. Voters, suburban women we represent, it's just incredible to see these election
Pardon the
results
viscera.
tonight.
One, not only do you speak either way, I owe thanks. I am the druid Halsin. Yes, but just Halsin will suffice. Unbecoming to demand honorifics from the one who saved my... I must admit...
It's just incredible. These counties, some of them, J.D. Vance won 67%. They are voting no too.
How is this possible?
County, Cuyahoga County, which is one of our urban counties where Cleveland is, but
Perhaps. It's no coincidence. I've been studying these... Someone is using I'm sorry to say, I didn't find what... That must be where these enchantments are placed on them. And I overheard innocents going, if you want to find a cure, you must head there and discover how the tadpoles are... Gladly, but first I must return to the grove. As you made short work of the goblins' leaders, there's nothing stopping me. Come join me in your own time. I can see to some matters there, and we can discuss what comes next amidst more bucolic surroundings than here.
Driver that continues to bring Democrats, independents, and some Republicans out to the polls, but this was beyond just that. These were sort of anti-democratic tactics that were being embraced to make it harder for voters to get their voices heard. And I wonder, how that fit into the portfolio of reasons why people were going out. I'm wondering if
Still
you heard
alive,
just from women,
so
but
that's progress.
for independents who understood this to be what it is, which was, again, a way of muzzling, if not censoring, the voices of Ohioans who have a tough time getting legislation passed, given the gerrymandered nature of the state.
It was very blatant. At Red Wine and Blue, actually a third of our members are former Republicans and independents. And if Republicans keep trying things like this, those numbers are just going to continue to grow. This was absolutely not just Democrats rejecting extremism. This was independents and Republicans as well. It was so transparently a power grab and just going way, way too far. And, not only that, I think that they really expected, hey, we're just going to sneak this through. This will be a low turnout election. No one will notice. But then they saw these huge numbers coming out in early voting. So they cranked up their disinformation machine. It has been a shame to see what we have seen across the state in the last few weeks. There has been huge attempts to drive fear into the hearts of voters. Even my group and me personally, we've been targeted as these targets of disinformation. But what we've seen tonight is that doesn't work. That voters see through the disinformation. There has been backlash to that. I have had women across the state telling me that it has just motivated them
just to vote, but to reach out to their friends and to their family and make sure that everybody is voting no in this election. This is about our democracy. It's about our values. It's about being able to have a voice in our state. And that went way beyond any partisan lines.
Can I ask, I mean, are you as bullish on the passage of the ballot referendum in November that would enshrine a woman's right to choose into the state constitution? The numbers track almost evenly in terms of support for that with opposition to ballot issue 1. Do you think that this is the same sort of turnout will be the case in November?
I have never been more excited to vote yes in November, and that is what I am hearing from voters across the state tonight. You know, Red, White, and Blue was a big part of this amazing coalition across the state collecting signatures. You might know we collected 710,000 signatures to put reproductive freedom on the ballot. That effort started in March. Every single voter that we spoke to, we said, okay, you're signing to put reproductive freedom on the ballot in November, but first you got to vote no in August, then you get to vote yes in November. And we're just so excited for the opportunity tonight. And every poll shows, I mean, I don't trust every poll, but every poll from everyone shows that 57, 58, 59% of Ohio voters will support this reproductive rights amendment. I mean, some of these numbers are just incredible. 85% of independent women support the reproductive rights ballot initiative. So yes, I'm very excited. I'm proud to be an Ohioan tonight, and I do expect good results in November.
Well, congratulations on your work tonight. Katie Paris, founder of Red, Wine, and Blue. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
So, if you guys recall, Trump's on his third indictment now, and the most recent one, the one which is directly about his sending of a fake set of elector slates over to D.C. and the January 6th thing, to override the results of a democratic election. One of the conditions of the indictment papers brought against him from the judge who was very likely to sentence him harshly should he be found guilty, was that he had to restrict his behavior concerning witnesses in the case. And on Truth Social, Trump then went ahead and he attacked Mike Pence. So this is a little bit abstract here, okay? We're very used to Donald Trump getting away with basically everything that he's ever done. And this comes across as relatively minor compared to a lot of the stuff that he's done in the past. So why throw a fit about this? Well, he's now under order from a judge, right? Like, he has a legal obligation to follow this order. It's not like, we're not talking about a standard of decorum. We're not talking about, like, what we expect him to behave like. We're talking pretty plainly about, actual legal consequences. He said this, so, I mean, I can read it if you want, but it's mostly just him attacking Mike Pence. I don't really care about the content of this. This isn't explicitly against the indictment, but he's also attacked the judge, which is not surprising at all. I mean, the judge is an Obama appointee, a black woman, the kind of person, based on her treatment of the January 6th rioters, who would not, take kindly to Donald Trump's behavior. And he also said, and I'm having trouble finding a screenshot of this, which is strange because I thought I'd be able to find it immediately. He said, essentially, if you f with me, I'll f with you. Why can I not find that? Can somebody find that screenshot for me? That's why I'm talking in circles right now. I'm delaying. I'm buying for time while I try to find... I am so sorry. I just got distracted for a second. This is a photo of a Trump supporter who threatened to shoot poll workers and has been sentenced to prison. And I swear to God, I thought that his face and beard and stuff were shaved into the back of his head. that he was facing the wall behind him, and this was like somebody had shaved and then put the glasses on. I just, for a split second, I thought that. Does anyone understand? Or is this just me? Does anyone understand? I saw one yep. Yeah, it's like the face and the neck are at the same... Okay, yeah. Whew. Okay. Right. Thank you. Who posted it? The leftist redneck. Thank you. He truth. If you go after me, I'm coming after you. So, again, Donald Trump has gotten away with basically everything he's ever done for his entire life. But there's a very different set of expectations set for him now, okay? The weight of judicial orders.
Time to press ahead.
Now, in my opinion, if you go after me, I'm coming after you, is an unambiguous threat in the context of his indictment. It's very difficult to read that in another way. The indictment literally said, no witness tampering, don't talk with these people who are involved. And then not only does he explicitly name Mike Pence, who is guaranteed to be involved in the trial, it's Mike Pence. But also, if you go after me, I'm coming after you. Talking shit about the judge is allowed, I'm pretty sure. We're in a very precarious situation here, folks. What Donald Trump is betting on is that he's powerful enough that the judge understands that going after Trump early and putting him in jail while waiting out the court date would cause unimaginable civil unrest. Because that's what would happen. Violating the terms of that indictment would mean that the police come, they arrest him, and they keep him in jail while waiting for the trial. The conditions that he was held to were the conditions for him being able to move about freely before his actual trial. He's betting on the idea, well, in all likelihood it's Donald Trump, so I don't think he's thinking that much. I think he just believes he can get away with anything, and maybe he can here. But he's pushing the line, and I really think that a bad precedent is going to be set if the judge lets him do this. Because I think this more than justifies his arrest, like, really easily, personally. And I think that by letting him get away with this, what you're essentially saying is, okay, well, we're doing these, legal processes, we're doing our trials, we're doing our arrest, whatever, okay, but we're still going to give you enough leeway and freedom to intimidate witnesses on the way over. And boy, the intimidation is real, folks. You got to understand, I know that Donald Trump is a wet, sloppy boy, but remember that he is literally would probably kill or at least defend killers for him. If Donald Trump starts naming witnesses, naming people directly, impugning them, doing the same kind of covert, coded attacks against them that he did against Mike Pence, the same shit he said on January 6th. He didn't say, go and overturn democracy. He said, go and let the voices be heard, the people, my beautiful pop champs, they are stealing this election. So if he says this shit with the witnesses, they're lying to put me in jail, they want to jail me, you're special boy, but I won't let it happen. None of this is explicitly involved for the death of witnesses, but we know how it's going to be interpreted, right? Right? I don't think he personally can do anything. I don't think he can be a flight risk if the Secret Service follows him. And something in turn Donald Trump, he's going to do a PS5 giveaway on the court the day that Pence gives testimony. Exactly. I think they have to lock him up, folks. I think they have to lock him up. No, I really mean it. Like, I think they have to. Because otherwise you set a standard where Donald Trump gets to edge closer and closer to a line of encouraging violence against witnesses and prosecutors and judges. And not just for him, but co-conspirators too. You really do not want to make it clear that there's any leeway. He was explicitly told not to do this, and then he immediately went and did this. I don't know if they're going to lock him up, but I think the consequences of him not having that done against him is incredibly dangerous. And that's true, Crane. That's completely true. It will look more arbitrary the longer you let him get away with it. Go now. Arrest him now. Hey, we told you not to do this. Your lawyers read this to you. You went and did it. This is absolutely coded witness intimidation. You talked directly about Mike Pence, who will be a witness. You're going to jail, bucko. And let the unrest happen now. Don't give them time to build it up. Don't say, oh yeah, we're going to arrest you if you, do this thing. And again, do that 7 more times and we'll get you. And Donald Trump's like, they're trying to silence him, Roy. They said I could only do this 47 times, but I'm not going to listen. Give him time to rile everyone up, to set plans in motion, to get people coordinated and organized, and the threat will only build. You can't let him do that. Trump's lawyers right now, Well, right now it seems Trump's entire legal team is like a cabal of grifters who are looking to extort as much money as possible from him on his way to the grave. You know, like I think that action has to be taken immediately. He's being allowed to do all the same shit that he did in previous. Like, look at this. No man can get a fair trial, or even close to a fair trial. In Washington, D.C., there are many reasons for this, but this one is that I'm calling for a federal takeover of this filthy and crime-ridden embarrassment to our nation, where murders are just shit, record other violent crimes of them. Tourists have fled. The federal takeover is very unpopular with potential area jurors, but necessary for safety greatness. See? So first of all, not only is his way of framing the cleanup of DC a federal takeover, which the language he's using here actually leans more towards coup language than it does like, as president, I would clean DC. Like, so he is so incautious with his language, he's not even pretending that this would be like him acting as president to, you know, exercise his power to improve the District of DC or whatever. He's just like, when I control this filthy, black-infested, not even a state little place called DC, I will use my limited powers to clean the streets. Like, it's so upfront. It's so upfront. He's trying to murder himself like that. Yeah, and that's the thing. He needs to be in prison so that he's not being given time to just build up this huge wave of prejudice, discontent, and antagonism prior to the actual trial. He violated the conditions of the agreement. He has to go to jail. Jack doesn't want to jail yet. Then don't include in your indictment such rules and stipulations that you know for a fact that this idiot is going to violate. Hey, if you don't want to go to jail, don't intimidate witnesses or talk about these people. Of course, he's immediately going to do this. I don't know. I don't know. Folks, we're getting very, very close to DeSantis' campaign is focused all on Trump, and Trump, based on the facts of the case and the judge, is basically guaranteed a guilty verdict and a prison sentence if everything follows the letter of the law in this court case. The GOP knows this. I don't think Trump supporters do. Trump supporters have gotten used to Trump getting his way every time, getting his way out of everything. The GOP may understand how serious this is, but think about it. Do you think the average Republican voter has even read the indictment? No, they don't want them to read the indictment because the indictment makes it clear how obviously wrong Donald Trump was. It makes it clear how often he lied. They don't want them reading the indictment. So the average Trump voter, I don't think they understand that this is real, and Trump is being given time to let them know. You all understand how dangerous this is, right? I think Republican voters should read the indictment, but he's not encouraging them to read the indictment. He's encouraging them to get worked up and potentially use their stochastic terrorist powers to intimidate or even harm witnesses or people involved in the prosecution. Legal did a video on that restriction on Trump. It's to make sure all the times Trump doesn't get submitted to evidence. Sure. For it to get submitted to evidence, that's great, but is there no additional... He's not to do these things. If he violates those orders, that's like a stipulation for his not being in jail. It's not enough to just make note of them. Oh, it's that liberal shit, you know? Actually, by letting Trump spend 6 months rile up his constituency and organize like terrorist militias to intimidate witnesses, we're getting all on the books. So when we actually get to the trial, you know, then we'll have a look. I'm sure there's some argument what they're doing. I just think that, you know, it's very dangerous. Trump lawyers have faith. Trump's lawyer says he will be interviewed if Pence testifies. What? Mike Pence will be one of our best witnesses in the trial. Laura says Sunday during an interview on ABC's The Week. I read his book very carefully and he testifies consistently with President Trump.
Now, no time for
What? Elaborate? I cannot wait until I have the opportunity to examine Mr. Pence because
cannot take much more.
Completely eliminate any doubt that Mr. Trump, President Trump, firmly believed the election irregularities. Whether or not Trump believes it is not material to the charges. These are not free speech charges. He is not being charged on on lying. He's being charged on interfering with the elector count process. This isn't a free speech case. Dude, I'm telling you, Trump's lawyers know that they're just trying to make money. That's why they keep making arguments that imply that this is a free speech case when it's not, and the indictment specifically says it's not. They're really just trying to get as much attention and money as possible before they actually get to the court, and then all the lawyers are focusing on the elector count thing. And it's like, well, he believed it. It's like, well, believe authentically insane doesn't mean you get to commit crimes. You can't authentically believe that murder is legal and then kill people and then it's legal and then you're fine. That's not how that works. I think Mike Pence will do anything. No, Mike Pence will testify against Trump. Mike Pence has firmly cemented his position as an antagonistic force to Trump. You know, why does Mike Pence have blurry sideburns that go all the way down to his jaw? Why? Could you not just Photoshop Pence next to Trump? Why? This doesn't even look like Pence. Why is he so smooth looking? Okay, save those pennies. It wouldn't take like 2 minutes to Photoshop. Look at the other shit Trump's posted. Deranged Jack Smith and our highly partisan, very corrupt Department of Injustice could have brought this bidding opponent case years ago, but chose to wait and bring it right in the middle of my election campaign. No way! Great again. This is from today. Yeah. Again. No way! I love doing that. I love it. Your Trump voice needs serious work. This isn't an attempt at like an authentic Trump. It's sort of morphing into its own like SNL impression. I love it's super bad. No, I like it. I like doing this. That's what I'm saying. I like that. Did everything right and they Donald Trump here Thursday to plead not guilty to charges that he tried to steal the 2020 election. His third court arraignment in 4 months. Less than 2 hours before anticipated arrival, members of the press continued to overwhelmingly outnumber protesters in front of the courthouse. This is one of the reasons why I feel like this case might actually have Donald Trump be cooked. Not only is the judge like an Obama-appointed anti-Jan 6 judge, but also, you guys know the jury pool is going to be from D.C., right? D.C. is like 92% Democrat. It's the most Democrat stronghold that exists. Like it's the most Democratist of places. So the jury pool and just the general environment is as anti-him as it's possible to be. Yeah, hold on, wait. 2020 election, DC vote count. Here we go. 2020 in the District of Columbia. Yeah, look at that. 92% went to Joe Biden. 317,000 votes went to him, and 18,000 went to Trump. It's 92.15% to 5.4%. It is the most Democrat-heavy stronghold. See, here in the dark blue, you have the heavily Democrat areas, which are 90 to 100% Biden. And then over here, you have the less heavily Democrat areas, which are only 80 to 90%, you know. I thought people in D.C. don't get to vote. No, they get to vote. They have electors. They just don't have a state government, and there's some other stuff. It's complicated. D.C. needs to be a state. I wonder why Republicans don't want D.C. to be a state, because it's 2 guaranteed blue senators. They really don't want that. I am now going to Washington, D.C. to be arrested for having challenged a corrupt, rigged, and stolen election, he said in an all-caps post on Truth Social. It is a great honor because I am being arrested for you. Make America great again. They indicted me. Hope they take his picture this time. Question needed if Trump gets convicted on at least one of the 4 cases he's got. We both know the Supreme Court is going to try to let him off the hook. What do you think will be the political fallout if they do that? Okay, I will admit to a gap in my knowledge here. I don't know how far Trump could appeal in the D.C. case. So he could appeal to a circuit court, right? But then
Let's try
if there was a
this again.
What, he could go
complete the fight with the druid.
I don't know how far that could go, exactly. Chat is so stupid, that's not how it works. Yeah, I'm not actually sure what the rules are for appealing court cases.
One day I'll catch a break.
How do appeals work? This is good to know. We should find this out. The appellate court. Okay. about the U.S. Court of Appeals. In the federal system, 94 district courts are organized into 12 circuits or regions. Each circuit is held for appeals review cases.
As the symbol glows, power courses.
Time for blood. The Supreme Court of the U.S. hears about 100 to 150 appeals of the more than 7,000 it's asked for review every year. That means the decisions made by the 12 Circuit Court of Appeals across the country and Federal Circuit Court the last 100,000 of cases. So in order for it to be appealed to the Supreme Court, the appellate court would have to accept it and then toss it up. Like, the Court of Appeals has to approve the appeal. It doesn't just automatically get accepted in the Supreme Court. Appellate. Unofficial majority report, right? Hi, guys! And yet another example of my political inferiority to Sam Cedar. I don't really know how like the court, so we're learning about that. An appellate court reviews the procedures and decisions of the trial court to make sure the proceedings were fair and the proper law was applied correctly. An appeal is available if, after a trial in the U.S. District Court, the losing side has issues with the trial court proceeding, the law that was applied, or how the law was applied. Generally, on these grounds, litigants have the right to an appellate court review of the trial court action. In this case, the government does not have a right to appeal. So, is there a way of knowing? Can we find out what the appellate court is, or would be, for his DC case? Like, which group of judges would oversee it, or is it too wide of a pool to really know? You are always guaranteed a first appeal. Subsequent ones must be accepted by higher courts. You're guaranteed the first one? So then what would the trial go to then, if not the existing judge? 4 of the 9 current U.S. Supreme Court justices were previously judges on the D.C. Circuit. John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Greg Kavanaugh, and Najee Brown Jackson. Nice. This is for civil, not criminal. No way for it to go to the Supreme Court, to my knowledge. I thought the government can't appeal on a criminal case, but in this case it would be the defendant appealing. Trump DC case, what if he appeals? You guys aren't being helpful at all. Appeals court declines to rule if Trump was acting in official capacity when he allegedly defamed E. Jean Carroll. Okay. That's not really relevant to this, I don't think. Court of Appeals is authorized to review all final judgments and specified interlocutory orders of the Supreme Court District of Columbia. Court of jurisdiction is the case decision administered. Trump can take it to the Supreme Court, but the court can decide to reject it, which they will. So what makes you confident that the Supreme Court wouldn't just accept the case and rule illegitimately in his favor because it's ruled by a bunch of high priests? Trump can appeal after the trial, but it's a matter of judges, separate people decide it's warranted. If they decide the trial was fine, they'll eliminate the appeal, then Trump goes to jail, the Supreme Court case. Yeah, that was my impression, that you don't get one free appeal that doesn't go through the appellate court. You still have to go through that. It can only go to SCOTUS if they have a constitutional challenge. Okay, but is that one of those rules that can be enforced by another body, or is that one of those things where it's like, you know, they don't do that, but they actually could? I'm just trying to find out how bulletproof this is. Because if it's like, the Supreme Court would never do that, but they technically can, then that's very different from SCOTUS does not hear criminal cases. Ever? There is only one Supreme Court criminal trial in history. Okay, so they can hear criminal cases, they just don't normally do it. This was back all the way in 1909. So they could do it. They don't try criminal cases, they can hear appeals about them. Right, so the most that could happen would be an appellate court. No, that the Supreme Court would allow the appeal, or an appellate court would deny the appeal, and they'd take it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court would grant the appeal, and then it would go to another court, and the whole thing would go on about.
Time for a new approach.
Yeah, they wouldn't hold the trial with the Supreme Court. They don't do that there, but they would, could potentially rule for an appeal. That would be the end of the country. I'm not asking whether or not it's likely. I'm asking whether or not it's procedurally possible. Can you scamper less? What are you doing? Why is your phone being go? Lord. Got any plans? Just Okay. For your appeals questions, the 5-4 podcast. Love the 5-4 podcast. Had a live chat YouTube about the likelihood of going to prison. Can we listen to that, purely for info? The 5-4 podcast is a good podcast. It's lawyers talking. This is an advertisement, okay? I'm doing it. I'm content stealing. Add for that 5-4 add below add. Okay, hold on. It's an hour 40. God damn it, it's an hour 40. Let me see if I can get to like the core info. Like maybe they'll open with the conclusion and then they'll elaborate on it.
You know, if Trump tries to do like interlocutory appeal or whatever and tries to delay this and send it up to the Supreme Court and kill it before it happens, I don't think the Supreme Court is going to want to make, should the Trump indictment go forward, be like the central question of the 2024 election. So I think they will be very wary to drag this out further and like let it wait.
That is a good point. Since Trump is the only Republican candidate who's capable of beating Biden, having like an interminable ongoing. Well, then again, like if Trump loses, then that's it too, right? I mean, better to drag it out indefinitely than it would be to just send
until after the election, because then you're just sending up the bat signal to every slip in the country that they need to vote, or Jack Smith will be fired and all charges dropped.
It depends on the court's ruling, right? I think that they could, depending on the political context, see an opportunity, or see something that they very much want to pass on.
Yeah.
But the problem for them is that we're in DC, which means that we're in the DC circuit, which is liberal, makes it more likely that they want to around a little bit, you know, stick their hands in there, fiddle with some stuff, see how it goes, which is
battle favors
so
the
exciting.
fearless.
As the proprietor, so
No time to waste.
It's hard not to be like, ooh, that would be great. It would be great to see some shit television. Or even more exciting, post-conviction. Some post-conviction appeals. Oh my god, dude! Just Sam Alito just like writing a concurrence about how much he loved Donald Trump. I would lose my mind. It would. Yes. What else can you want as a Supreme Court podcast? It just.
I'm taking from their tone that they think it's possible that they're be meddling in this case, but they don't think there's a very high likelihood of it leading to a change in the outcome. That's what their tone suggests to me.
Feels perfect. And I think that it's very likely that this reaches the court in some way. There are so many issues. This stuff doesn't happen. Like, these charges have been brought before. People have been convicted related to January 6th on some of these charges. But the context of a president trying to execute a almost completely novel scheme to sort of like intercept the electoral college, it's unique, and uniqueness brings unique legal questions, and unique legal questions bring the Supreme Court. So,
yeah, well, I didn't respond to one other shitty right-wing defense of Trump.
Okay, so yeah, okay. It seems like they don't even think it would be politically beneficial for the court to attempt to do that. Yeah, I guess. Because it would be like the bad signal to resist libs. I mean, it should be, right? Like, that's a pretty good reason to get people off their ass, you know? Trump attempted a coup, and then the court that he mostly appointed then in this direction, like, tries to get him off. Like, you know, Vosh trials won't start until mid to late 2024, none of this matters. Wait, they haven't set a trial date for the DC charges, have they? The later trial date was for the Florida mishandling of classified documents thing. I thought that there wasn't an official trial date for this yet. Isn't the con party divided between pro-Trump and anti-Trump plans? There's not much anti-Trump. Last spring, after Artemis our potted they did everything right, and they indicted me when I caught the criminal at hand at the crime scene, even.
Either way, I owe thanks. I must... How is this possible? Perhaps... I'm sorry to... That must be where these enchantments are placed on them. I overheard that the cultists... If you want to find a cure, you must head there and discover how the tadpoles are being manipulated. I can...
Why is the pillow square? I'll tell you. The problem with pillows is that they're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. This is Jay. He found that a regular pillow lacked the support needed to fill the gap between his shoulders and his big head. He woke up sore, unrested, and achy.
I feel sore, unrested, and achy.
That's when Jay had his great idea. Why not make a pillow in the shape of a cube? The pillow cube wasn't a sack of fluff. It was a bed designed for your head. When you uncrank that neck, you align your spine and sleep fully supported and pain-free. Hundreds and thousands of people love the pillow cube and have said things like, "It's literally the most supportive, most comfortable pillow I've ever tried in my life." So what would be said about that? How it actually does what they say it does?
They literally had the best night's sleep,
And they did it all without getting paid.
this is not a paid advertisement at all.
Why hasn't anyone done it before? The ancient Egyptians knew this. Pharaohs used this headrest. Japanese used these pillow boxes. They offer great support, but whether you like to sleep cold, warm, or really, really hot, Pillow Cube regulates
I
temperature
will have to
all
clear
night
my
long.
inventory here in a bit.
I see the beds for torture, not for sleeping.
Just 5 minutes.
We make our pillows in cube shapes because this is the most
Keep your
comfortable way
distance,
to make a
darling.
perfect pillow clean and simple. You should buy one and find out for yourself.
Go to pillowcube.com today to find your perfect pillow. Pillow Cube. Better sleep on your side.
Fruits of Striding.
Did you know that you can actually hire the editor of The Hunger Games?
Did I not?
On Readsy, you can find
Do
editors,
all the items off
and
of...
designers who worked on major bestsellers and hire them to work on your book. Browse through our hand-picked professionals. Find candidates with expertise in your genre, and reach out to your dream editor or designer. Sign up to Readsy today and publish a professional, beautiful book.
Shouldn't have wished to live in more interesting times.
New candidates and
There's not really a wedge to get them on right now, right? Like, think about it. Before there was Black Lives Matter, because during Black Lives
There's
Matter,
an
progressives had the front seat, you know? Like,
somewhere.
it was the progressive Democrats and the progressive activists who were the loudest and most prominent during BLM because it was like an advocacy movement. And then there's like Medicare for All, but nobody talks about Medicare for All. Dude, Medicare for All is so cooked, you know? It got talked about in 2016, and then like it faded away, and now like the fascists are here, and it's such a big deal. And you know, we're not even going to get a public option. We're all going to go bankrupt from a medical problem. Like, that's it, you know? That's all we get.
I'm curious.
ACJ, I saw that link the first 4 times. Everyone, please remember, I see your links when you first post them. You don't need to repost them. If I ignore them, it's for a reason. Like, I'm not going, like, if you describe a link, here's Kyle doing a soy boy for Orb Mommy over AOC, I don't care.
You think about that, Jake.
Yeah, look, when we started Just Democrats,
Contrary to what some of you people think, Kyle Kulinski is not and probably never will be an enemy of this channel, okay? I like Kyle. I like Marion Williamson, too.
yes, we started Just Democrats, and by we I mean both me and the co-founders like Sharkat Chakrabarti and yes, Kyle Kulinski and Zach Exley. But also we as in you guys, the
Oh, I
audience,
have a magic
you gave
touch.
literally millions of dollars to start this group. And we launched it here on the Young Turks. And we were all very clear. You have to challenge the establishment. That's the whole point of this organization. And in the first cycle, we ran 78 races. Zach's original idea, he's one of the co-founders, was to run 435 or 535 races if we could, right? And that was too ambitious, but I loved him for it, and it was the right way of thinking about it. And then we only won 4 out of the 78. But you normally get a lot of ha-ha that, oh, your winning record's not that good, your winning percentage, etc. But it was a hell of a 4. AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Presley. And they made a giant difference in the beginning, right? So we were going in the right direction. But then the organization, for some reason, started worrying about their winning percentage. And then they started running less and less people. And they started running them in only super blue districts because they thought that was more winnable. That's fair, it is more winnable in super blue districts.
I'm kind of torn on this because I think there's a good argument to be made for what Cenk is saying, and I think there's an argument to be made against it. On one hand, I do think a gigantic scattershot approach is important because the DNC does basically no work or outreach in red states or in like a lot of contested districts that could potentially go blue, but they don't put in the effort because they don't have like the on-the-ground infrastructure or the energy, and like all the consultants are from New York City. So, you know, like imagine a DNC consultant from New York City trying to plan out strategy for getting a candidate to like win an election in some like potentially swing district in Alabama, and they're like grimacing as they go down there and talking to people. Yeah, it's this contemptuous like coastal elite bullshit really puts them over when it comes to dealing with areas like that, middle America, that kind of stuff. So I get that argument. At the same time, I did see people giving the Justice Dems a lot of shit for their low winning percentage early on. It is possible that, like, by doing too much of a scattershot approach, you do kind of dilute the organization, both in terms of focus and funds, and you end up leading people to disrespect the org. I think the problem is that nobody really cares about the Justice Dems anymore. The Justice Dems were exciting for a while, and I still think the Justice Dems are better than your average Democrat, but the name Justice Dems does not elicit this, like, countercultural, like, I guess, like, attitude. It makes me wonder if the future of progressive advocacy in the Democrats is, like, decentralized, where you would have leaders to rally around, but not like a title to go by. Does that make any sense? Bernie Sanders did really, really well because he was a great candidate and he commanded a lot of respect, but it wasn't like the Bernie-crats were a actual group that had like funding and staff, you know? It felt like a flash in the pan, and you can make more flashes in the pan. It's not like you can only, you know, it's not like that might only happen once. Gosh, how did the Tea Party succeed? So the thing is, with the Tea Party, the problem is that politics work differently on the right. The right is more willing to concede to reactionary politics because it doesn't necessarily interrupt their pro-business goals. Fascists love collaborationism.
Okay.
But the Democrats aren't, because progressive Democrats are almost always more anti-corporate than neoliberal Democrats. So the Tea Party made a fuss and then got folded in to the Republican Party, effectively supplanting their goals and moving them rightward. You know, whereas Justice, they kind of have to fight straight for every bit they get. The DNC just isn't willing to do this leftward lurch as much as I would like it that they do. So our strategy has to be a little bit different, you know? Yes, the Tea Party also has a lot of, or had a lot of money. There's always going to be more money circling around in right-wing environments because, you know.
But we got to scare some people in purple districts, otherwise we can't get their votes in Congress. Because the point isn't to get AOC elected or any one of these people elected. The point is to pass bills, to pass policy priorities for progressives. But along the way, both the legislators and the group, unfortunately, lost their way and they took their eyes off the prize. I have more on that in a second.
In fact, okay, so this is a perfect time to mention one of the biggest obstacles for the organization at the moment, which is fundraising. So I'm going to give you the quotes. Alexandra Rojas, who is the Justice Democrats executive director.
Yeah, Henny, I think I agree. If, like, your primary goal here is to win Congress, right, and you want to win Congress with enough seats that you can potentially sway policy, so maybe in the future you actually can do a kind of force the vote situation, or get cabinet appointments where you have power as progressive Democrats. And in order to do that, you don't just want to have AOC win in super ultra mega blue environments, right? You want to have, like, progressives win all over the country, but that's easier said than done, right? You know, I mean, I would love to see like 5 new junior Democrat progressives come in from Louisiana, but that's not, like, saying that is one thing. It doesn't mean it's really like,
Let's change up how we handle this.
We are vulnerable to sudden changes in grassroots giving. The ebbs and flows for us are bigger. Now remember, Justice Democrats, you know, they take small dollar donors, grassroots money. And this is my speculation, but you're going to get less funding from grassroots donors if they feel that you are not delivering for them. So I'm going to give you a few examples. When there are headlines about Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez voting present when she should have voted no on an extra $1 billion for Israel, right? That's on top of the funding that we already provide for Israel every single year, billions and billions of dollars. That showed a level of weakness and the willingness to honestly turn her back on the people who supported her and promoted her and defended her as she's being attacked by corporate Democrats, right?
Yeah, I don't like this attitude. AOC has done votes that I disagree with, and I've stated that disagreement. But, like, holy shit, man, we have to accept that even if we got a squad of ultra-communists in Congress, there's so much wheeling and dealing that goes on behind the scenes that they will inevitably one day vote for stuff that just seems like a betrayal of their values or whatever. Like, so many bills go through Congress, and there's so much stuff that happens that we don't get any insight onto. If they're good, like, 95% of the time, that's set for me. You know, I don't want to, like, because if you set that standard, it's like, well, you're never, like, if Bernie had won and become president, he also would have done stuff that we wouldn't have agreed with because he is the president. He's subject to interests and information that we will never know or understand. He is literally the most powerful man on earth. But if he does most things right most of the time, that's still a huge win. I don't like this attitude. That being said, it is true that AOC and other justice Dems have to play a game where they have to appear as though they're challenging the status quo, but at the same time they can't risk coming off too combative, or else liberal Democrat media will fold them in with the MAGA crowd as the enemy of liberty, you know? Like, I can see the MSNBC lines now, you know? In a time where our country faces great threat and peril from the MAGA crowd and anti-democracy types, AOC and the Justice Dems have opposed the Democrat bills, aligning with them, you know, kind of crap. It's really, really, really difficult to manage. I do not envy AOC.
That's one example I have in mind. When they fail to, like, I mean, the latest example, in my opinion, when it comes to AOC, and I don't mean to harp on her, I've seen some failures when it comes to Justice Democrats in Congress across the board, but she just goes on God Save America, and without trying to get any concessions from Joe Biden, prematurely endorses him, saying, given the field, yes, I endorse Joe Biden for re-election.
And why would you do that? Israel's an ironic example because they've actually been focused on Israel overall. Not just Democrats voted against saying that Israel's not a racist state, and they held the line even though.
I just wonder how much, like, would her withholding her endorsement mattered when we know that's where her endorsement was going to go? There's literally no other Democrat contender, you know? There's no, like, that's the only real option. It seems like at that point, any withheld endorsement would have been a transparent virtue signal. Like, oh, you know, there's only one real person I can endorse, but, like, let me think about it. I actually think that Biden should pass Medicare for all first. You know, I don't know how well that would play in an environment where it's so obvious how things are going to pan out in terms of Democrat support. Maybe not.
They got a lot of blowback from Washington, and all of this is nuance. And by the way, House Rojas was definitely part of the initial leadership team. It was a huge part of the successes that happened, and that's why she got the executive director position. Corbin Trent was an incredible part of the organization originally, etc. They've done great work. Just Democrats have done great work overall. There's 11 Just Democrats in Congress when nobody thought that was possible. Now, having said that, look, on economic issues,
why not endorse Marianne? Because Marianne isn't even trying to get ballot access. Like, Marianne is doing some advocacy work, but, like, this isn't a real contender for the presidency. I think endorsing Marianne would have been irresponsible. Not only because you don't want to endorse somebody who has no chance of winning at all, because that makes you look like a bad decision maker, but it also would have been kind of an insult to Joe Biden to go like, oh, you know, Joe Biden will obviously win the primary because there is no primary, but, like, yeah, I'll toss my endorsement over to somebody with no chance because I'm that disgusted with Joe. And while that may seem like it's playing hardball politics, it also alienates AOC from people who are really invested in Joe Biden winning. No, it is. It's like an unwinnable game, funny rhetorician. Like, but I see both sides of this because I'm a big brain enlightened centrist, like I always have been. Tim Pool. I'm like Tim Pool. I'm a centrist. There we go.
They just didn't fight, and so I don't think it's speculation at all. I think it's stone cold fact to say that you're getting less grassroots funding because you didn't deliver, and that breaks my heart because we started Just Democrats together, and I want to come out here and tell you we did deliver. We did awesome, and we did exactly what we were supposed to do. It's not we anymore. I'm not part of the group anymore. But you remember when I left the group, 100% anyway.
All right. Well, I have a pledge that I would like to make to all of you. So long as I am in control of this channel, I will never, ever wear a hat. What's with the hat? I'm Tim Cool.
Anyway, right? Eyes on the prize. How many times did you guys hear me say eyes on the prize? But when we had the prize, it's something like $15 minimum wage. I know for a fact that they chose not to fight. And they said, oh, Bernie Sanders doesn't want to fight. The legislators in the House don't want to fight. Well, who cares? Push them to fight. That's the whole point of Justice Democrats.
The Justice Dems have terrible foreign policy. Yeah, I remember this. AOC and Marjorie Taylor Greene join forces to back doomed Gates Syrian troop bill. Man, guys, never listen to a leftist when it comes to foreign policy. As I've said before, you would legitimately have a higher likelihood of getting a good take listening to a liberal, even like an MSNBC liberal. I'm not joking. That's how bad leftists are when it comes to foreign policy. Jesus.
If you had told me you're going to get 11 Justice Democrats in Congress, I would be like, yes. If you told me they're not even going to fight for $15 minimum wage, I would be like, they're going to pay family who's going to die on the table, and no one's even going to push back. Wouldn't believe it. They're going to fight for voting rights. And if you come with a strategy, and this one is on Pramila Jayapal, and I asked her to be a Justice Democrat personally, and now I completely regret that. Her strategy was trust Biden. It worked out terribly. We didn't get any of our policies. The only thing we got was some action against climate change and the Inflation Reduction Act. But then Biden's like, hold on. It seems like I'm helping you a little bit.
Yeah, they did try to fight for the $15 an hour minimum wage. They didn't like give it. I guess like, do you guys really want progressives in Congress to be like non-stop 24/7 advocates for something, no matter the context or whether or not they have enough votes? Doesn't that make them come across as really like politically ineffective and annoying? Like if they tried to get the $15 an hour minimum wage passed and then it didn't work, do they like the next day they just show up and keep screaming about it? I understand that's what the Republicans do, but I don't know if that would work with is that what we want? Is it just like ruthless, unyielding noise machines that don't have any kind of like bone for political strategy and will just do the thing like wind up automatons? Maybe, you know what? I don't know. Maybe that would be better. Really, maybe it would be. I genuinely don't know. That doesn't feel right to me. But maybe like politics is that stupid.
Psych. Instead, what I'm going to do is suddenly neutralize that by allowing drilling everywhere, including the Willow Project in Alaska. I'm going to give Joe Manchin a pipeline, even though he destroyed 85% of my agenda. I'm going to gratuitously have more and more drilling. So that turns into a zero, and you didn't get anything else. And then you wonder why your funding dried up. They have these total excuses, and I gotta say, I talked to Danny Morales who did that piece, and I just thought at the end that the piece seemed to emphasize, oh, well, golly gee, the great grassroots
Oh,
funding
thank
is
you for the
drying up.
follow, Evelyn Jorge. I just saw it.
Well, why do you think grassroots is drying up? Because there's no hope left. Because we can't even get the bare minimum. We can't even get the fight for the bare minimum. Don't pretend that $15 minimum wage was not the bare minimum. That voting rights was not the bare minimum. No progressive in their right mind can pretend. Don't pretend you fought for it. You're on the record. You did not fight for it.
This part right here is just stupid. This is empty posturing. Different people in the Justice Dems and the Democrats have at varying points fought for these things to varying extents.
Oh no, we're getting another dream sequence.
Preachy, screamy, how dare you bullshit.
I just feel that, just based on what we can see publicly, there's a lack of strategy and a lack of. It seems like they don't really talk to one another or plan on
I promised
what
I'd be
their
back.
plan of attack is, right? And in fact, there was an aide who spoke to HuffPost
Don't
about
worry.
this, and
I have
this is
things
what
under
they said.
control.
So this is a progressive senior House aide. We have huge champions like Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, who are able to be successful
I
political
see you've been
fundraisers,
using the
but
powers the tadpole gives
we're
you.
not in a great place right now. And
Good.
one House aide conceded that Justice
But things haven't gone as you expected. You hoped a druid as powerful as Holshin might be able to remove your tadpole.
Other than some
But he
Israel
couldn't.
bills, we never talked about
You're
legislation.
desperate to be
There's
rid
a
of it.
perspective that people with Justice Democrats
Understandable.
win the race and come
But
to
you're looking for
Congress
solutions in the wrong places.
That's not if that's the case,
So what should I be doing?
Reflection of their,
Your parasite is
strategy,
unusual.
That's really
It is wrapped in magic that prevents its removal.
Absolute reality. You guys have heard me
Until the source of the tadpole's magic is destroyed, any attempt to remove it will kill you. You're lucky that Holston knew this. His instincts are right. The parasites were merely a symptom of a greater sickness in Faerun.
Corporate Dems is all the time when you can and not when you can't. It is
Tell me
a
more
fact
about this
right
magic.
now that like the current
It imbues the
liberal or the current
parasites
political
with
climate
special
favors
powers.
liberalism because it
Some
seems
that
the same
benefit,
alternative to fascism.
most
if
that
you want to
harm.
press back against like corporate Democrat behavior,
But
there are
more
times to do. I've
importantly,
talked about it plenty, but
it
I don't.
enables the
Your
hosts to
first
be
goal in
controlled.
politics is not, well, when do we get to
The
fight the
infected
corporate
hear the
Dems?
voice of
Your
the
first goal in
absolute
politics is wake up,
and
smell the
believe it
roses,
to
and
be a
think,
god.
what is the most important thing to do right now? And the
That
answer to that is fight
is how
fascism.
the cult
Why
of
do
the
I see so many
absolute is
leftists
spreading.
online who ask, when's the time to
The
challenge
highest
the
of their
corporate Dems?
rank,
And
the true
not,
souls,
when's the time
carry a
to
tadpole
invalidate
just like
fascism
yours.
at a political level? I
It
never
is
see
how
that
they
question
receive
get
their
asked, which is
orders.
weird to me because that is by far the most important
It is what
priority.
makes
It's
them
leagues
obey.
more than any individual
When
policy
the
issue.
order to transform is given,
consequence of
it would
failing
not
on
be a
that
matter of
particular
days.
front are
They will be mind
magnitudes greater
flayers
than
in an
the harm
instant.
done by continuing the status quo. But people
Were it
don't,
not
they
for
don't
my
wake up and say, well, okay,
protection,
well, how can I
so
most
would
fight
you.
against the agenda of the Republican Party? Because leftists don't care about that because that makes them feel like
So who are you?
Instead, it's, well, how
It's
do we oppose
complicated,
the corporate Dems?
but I'm an
Well, here's step
adventurer.
one. Make the average
Just like
Democrat
you.
voter not so insanely terrified of
Just
fascism
like you,
that
I
they're
was
willing to
infected
accept
with a
risky
mind flayer
alternatives, or what they
parasite.
perceive to be risky alternatives to
Just
liberalism.
like
If
you,
want,
I seek to be free of it.
Movement, then you
I've
look
been
at
trying to
really
escape from this
stability,
evil for a
and
long
in order to
time.
get that, you have to push back against
Once,
fascism. That, I think, is the most important
I
thing to
almost
focus on.
succeeded.
I'm shocked to find out there's no strategy, no planning, no leadership.
Through you, I've been
It's not
given a
just
new
Justice Democrats,
chance.
that's also other so-called
You
progressives
can
in
go
Congress.
where I
Yes, that
cannot,
includes Bernie
and
Sanders,
I can
Elizabeth
protect you
Warren.
from that
Nobody
evil.
talks to anybody. They don't coordinate. Hell, you
If we work together,
you don't go and talk to people.
we may
You don't
turn this around.
plan a strategy. Look, and then if somebody
Hells.
proposes a strategy from the
They need
outside,
me.
everybody's too good now.
I have to go.
I'm a congressperson. Oh, I'm a senator. Who cares? What have you
Is there anything I can do to help you?
No,
I don't know what
I
he's
can handle
referring to
this.
here. I have never
For
seen
now.
AOC go, oh,
The power I used to protect you,
I don't know
I stole it from
There's a lot
someone.
of new progressives like
They
Maxwell
want it
Frost
back.
supporting Israel. I did see
I
the
will hold
Maxwell
them off for
Frost
as long as I
vote on
can.
Israel, man.
But
You don't
sooner
see
or later,
progressive
I will
says
be
he's
worn
pro-Israel
down.
and pro-Palestinian. What
You
the-
must
this
discover
was
the
old,
source
this
of the
was
magic that
2022.
controls
It
the
really
parasites
just feels
before
like if
that
you want to
happens.
succeed in American politics, you can't be
The
anti-Israel
cultists
because
are
if you
gathering
are, people
at
say it's like,
Moonrise
oh, it's
Towers.
the Jews, oh, it's AIPAC. No, it's
Use the
not.
powers your
It's
parasite
the-
gives you
it's
to
the
convince them you are one of
Democrats, the
them.
Republicans
And when you find the source of their
in power
magic,
who will
destroy it.
disingenuously accuse you of anti-Semitism in
Go.
order to politically handicap you.
Our
It's
freedom
the same
depends
thing
on
that happened
it.
to Corbyn, right? Corbyn got accused of being anti-Semitic, and that ended up like frying him electorally. But it wasn't Jews doing it; it was people in his, it was Gentiles in his own party who were deliberately inflaming those accusations to fuck over Corbyn because they didn't like him. So it's not like, as always, the Jews aren't behind it. They're just a scapegoat. Except in this case, they're being used disingenuously as a scapegoat from the from the other side. You know, like, oh, how dare you be anti-Semitic by being anti-Israel? And this is being said by like a GOP congressperson whose staff is filled with Nazis. You know, and the Nazis will repeat it too.
All right.
Hey guys, we're dying for leadership. So if AOC
I'm gonna take a quick bio break. We'll be right back. All right, before anyone asks, I have now eaten. You don't have to worry about me taking care of myself. The game crashed while I was offline, so that's anyway.
Maybe it'll bring us closer.
I've been dreaming of our enigmatic visitor again. She told me our purpose was to take on this cult of the Absolute, to infiltrate its ranks and bring it down from the inside. She even offered me greater powers, the result of some manipulation of the tadpole's psionic abilities. Given the magnitude of what we're up against, I see no harm in considering the benefit this offer might afford us. Could be the only way to reach this source in one piece.
You're right, we must use every means at our disposal, even unsavory ones.
As existential evils go, the Absolute certainly seems an adversary worth halting in its tracks. Any opportunities for us to indulge our tadpole's capabilities are hardly on the same scale. Trifles, when one considers the bigger picture.
I need you to remain in camp for a while.
I question the wisdom of that decision, but so be it.
Perhaps we'll travel again later.
I'll be here in the meantime, idling away the hours.
I had another dream. Which, I suppose, means you did as well. Whoever's reaching out to us truly does seem opposed to the Absolute, but wants us to embrace the tadpole. Venture right into the heart of the cult. Perhaps we truly have a secret protector. Or we're walking into a trap.
Join me.
All right. Some company wouldn't hurt on the road, especially if there's trouble.
Light on my feet.
I had another dream last night. The visitor came to me and ordered me to penetrate the heart of the very cult that's spreading the infection. It gave me a tadpole gift too, just like it did the first time it appeared. I suppose it hoped this would help. At first, I thought we should avoid these gifts no matter what advantage we gain. And yet, I can't help recall the words of my father. The best plan is the one that works. These powers could be enough to edge us towards victory.
You need these powers to infiltrate the cults. This is the plan that works.
Very well. If it's mind games these parasites wish to play, we'll play. And we'll win.
Like you wait in camp for now?
Are you sure? The blade stands at the ready.
Remain here. I'll come if I need you to.
And just when things were warming up.
Another dream. Another order from that dubious visitor. It announced that we will find the answers we seek in the Absolute Cultist's lair, and offered another generous gift. A persuasive creature. It tempts us with power, expresses its admiration, its adoration. Avert your eyes whenever it appears, and do not avail yourself of this new power, no matter how alluring. You've no idea what damage it could do to us, how far into illithid madness it could drag us.
You can use this skill to manipulate the cultists. Wait now. I think the dream figure was right. Follow the cultists, we find the source of our tadpoles.
Yes, the one truth that fell out of its cankered lips. There will come a battle, but it will be one with swords, not mind games born of brainworms.
I'd like you to join me.
It is done.
All right. Start by leveling up our cleric.
I had another visit from that dream figure. I take it you did too. It claims that if we infiltrate the heart of the cult that's giving out these parasites, we'll find the answers we're looking for. It gave me another gift, too. Just like it did the first time it appeared. Rather generous, if you ask me.
We'll trade the cult. We must be discreet. The tadpole can help us with that.
And if that fails, then there's always killing them quietly. Now, was there anything else?
I think it's better if you stay in camp for a while.
Oh, darling, I'm hurt. I thought we had something special.
Please just stay here.
I guess I'll spend my evenings lounging here while you do all the hard work. It sounds awful.
And bring Gale back in.
I do enjoy our conversations. What do you need?
Join me, why don't you? There's plenty of adventure to be had.
With pleasure. Lead on.
All right. Quickly save. Get our pre-battle prep. Okay.
I'm ready. Whatever it takes.
Like its will be done.
No rest for the wicked, I see.
So we need to transfer some healing potions.
Still alive, so that's progress. Don't waste a step.
Save again. We'll have Gale use mage armor as soon as we... Yep.
Your desire.
All right.
All right. What now?
So we don't have to do any more battle prep. Save here. Do save. Here we go.
Let's finish this.
Good move.
Swift and lethal. It has it.
Blood comes easy these days.
Juicy. Crush the bullbag!
Got to keep fighting.
Voco Avili!
Still breathing, despite everything.
What if I?
Wonder if the gods are watching me.
to move.
Some healing for a wizard in need.
No choice but to keep going.
Time. To focus.
Take you. Take you.
Sometimes the only way out is through.
Yeah? Streaming? Sorry about that, folks.
Need to stay focused.
Survival is all that matters. bear. Where do I go from here? I won't go on without
time to die. You must get up.
Let's end this.
Certainly.
Voco Avida.
Time to strike. On the move. Intended. Begone, death. You will not take me. Talk to me.
Now's no time to die. You must get up. Take this.
Of course.
Victory awaits.
Not going to last much longer.